Chapter 439. The sword sect's Talon and the others protected the heavily injured Yiguchen as they left the arena. Almost as soon as he left the arena, Yiguchen's body suddenly shook, and then he spat out a mouthful of blood. He had been forcefully suppressing his injuries in the arena earlier. Now that he had relaxed a little, they immediately erupted. Intense dizziness assaulted his mind and Yiguchen's body fell to the side. At this moment, a beautiful figure suddenly flashed forward and supported Yiguchen's body. Some of the surrounding inner court disciples were dumbstruck when they saw Yan Wushuang, who almost immediately went forward to support Yiguchen's body. When had they ever seen a proud and cold girl like a phoenix take the initiative to support someone? Moreover, it was someone of the opposite sex. However, their gazes soon turned into playful gazes. "I didn't see anything." Yi Xia turned his head to the side. "I didn't see anything either." Chu Qingqi couldn't help but tease. Yan Wushuang's exquisite face, which usually contained a trace of indifference, also had a rare faint blush. The contrast in personality and attitude caused Yan Wushuang to have an even more astonishing charm at this moment. Nearby, Zither Fairy, who was about to rush over, suddenly stopped as a faint bitterness appeared on the corners of her mouth. She didn't continue forward and instead stood guard. As for Bai Zichen and Wang Xiaotian, they were at the very back of the inner court disciples. If Bai Zichen's reputation in the inner court had suffered a blow before, then he was now completely ignored. It was impossible for a person who fled at the last moment and smeared the name of the sword sect's Talon to be accepted by the inner court. Looking at Yan Wushuang, who was supporting Yiguchen, and the blush on her face, the flames of jealousy in Bai Zichen's heart erupted like a volcano. At this moment, Elder Qing he walked towards the two of them with an extremely cold expression. "The two of you have done such a shameful thing this time. Even the first elder can no longer care about the two of you. Lord Feng Manlu has already instructed me to inform the two of you that the two of you have already been expelled from the inner court and can only become outer court disciples. This is already benevolence." After Elder Qing he finished speaking, he turned around and left. Their faces instantly sank to the bottom of the valley. Being banished to the outer campus meant that their rankings in the second and third place were no longer useful. They would no longer have the chance to obtain the special privileges and resources of the inner campus. "Bai Zichen, it's all your fault for egging me on. I hate you." Wang Xiaotian's eyes were bloodshot as he glared at Bai Zichen. If it weren't for Bai Zichen's words, he might not have run away. Bai Zichen's entire body was trembling. He could no longer hear Wang Xiaotian's words. His handsome face had long been distorted by deep hatred. "Yiguchen, you stole my fame, my reputation, my woman, my everything. Why?" Bai Zichen's face was twisted and ferocious. His otherworldly indifference had long been tossed out of his mind. The only thing left in his heart was his hatred for Yiguchen. However, he did not reflect on himself. Could it be that the source of all this was not himself? Had Yiguchen ever taken the initiative to target him? Whether it was the impersonation of one Sword Cliff's sword scar or the provocation of the ranking battle, it was Bai Zichen who courted death first. Yiguchen had never cared about him. While Bai Zichen was furious, he did not know that Zhou Tong, who was dressed in white, was looking at him indifferently in the distance. The corners of his mouth revealed a wisp of a scheming smile. "Yiguchen, you can't escape my scheme." Zhou Tong's gaze was deep. The people of the sword sect's Tower Forest returned to their inn. Yiguchen, Jiling, Yuan Mia, and the other heavily injured disciples also received the safest care. Everything that happened in the martial arena had long since spread throughout northern Liang City. It would not be long before it spread throughout the entire Great Desolate Mansion and even the entire dynasty. Northern Liang City, in an inn. When Xiao Wanru heard that the dead sword sect's Yiguchen had appeared at the martial arena exchange, her mind exploded. Her mind seemed to explode, and an uncontrollable joy spread from the bottom of her heart. Although she had never seen the sword sect's Tower Forest, she had long since regarded him as the epitome of her other half in her heart. Therefore, when she heard that not only was Yiguchen not dead, but he had also suppressed all the heroes in the martial arts exchange and was an unparalleled genius, Xiao Wanru was so excited and unable to contain her joy. She hurriedly returned to the guest room and told the news to Xiao Lai and Madame Xiao. "Father, mother, guess what news your daughter heard? The sword sect's Yiguchen is not dead. He's still alive." "That's great." Xiao Wanru originally had the temperament of a noble lady, indifferent and gentle. However, she could not help but cheer at this moment, revealing the innocence of a young girl. When Xiao Lai and Madame Xiao heard this news, they were also slightly speechless, but they did not have any reaction. "Daughter, what are you so excited about? A genius like the sword sect has nothing to do with us. His survival is not beneficial to us." Madame Xiao curled her lips. A person like the sword sect was in existence at the peak in Madame Xiao's heart. Even Shintu Miao could not compare to him. However, so what? He was not related to them at all. They were not people of the same world. "Say, do you think that little brother Yi will?" At this moment, Xiao Lai thought of the mysterious young man with the bamboo hat and could not help but make a guess. Madame Xiao and Xiao Wanru's expressions froze. Then, Madame Xiao clutched her stomach and laughed loudly. "Husband, your joke is too funny. That brat is the sword sect. Isn't it too whimsical?" Madame Xiao laughed until tears were about to come out of her eyes. Xiao Wanru, on the other hand, was somewhat suspicious and slightly nervous. "It can't be true, right? Madam, what are you laughing at? How can you be sure it's not true?" Xiao Lai asked. "Although that brat's strength is not bad, it is absolutely impossible for him to reach the level of a sword sect. Moreover, isn't he a blacksmith? Have you heard of a sword sect blacksmith?" Madame Xiao shook her head. She felt that Xiao Lai's imagination was really rich. "I see. Indeed." Xiao Lai sighed. The legendary sword sect that was unparalleled in the way of the sword was indeed not a blacksmith. Moreover, with the talent that little brother displayed in forging, it is absolutely not something that can be learned in 10 days or half a month. He must have gone through a long period of forging training. However, I have never heard of a sword sect having talent in forging. Xiao Lai shook his head. He also felt that his own thoughts were somewhat laughable. Although Xiao Wanru was somewhat disappointed, she was also unexpectedly relieved. If that young man was really Yiguchen, then wouldn't her intestines turn green with regret? "Wanru, don't think too much about the sword sect. The Shinto clan is about to send out wedding invitations. You will marry into the Shinto clan in a month. In the future, you will serve young Master Shinto obediently. Do you understand?" Madame Xiao exhorted. Xiao Wanru bit her lip and nodded as if she had accepted her fate. Chapter 440. In the blink of an eye, more than 7 days had passed since the exchange. In these 7 days, the 7 forces had divided their battle zones and opponents according to their rankings. The Sword Sect Tower Forest had chosen the Water Tribe and the Wood Tribe as their opponents. They were both barbarian tribes that were more gentle. Especially the Wood Tribe, they loved peace and were the peace-loving barbarian tribe. The Fire Tribe, the Thunder Tribe, and the Gold Tribe were the war-loving barbarian tribe. It could be said that the Sword Sect Tower Forest would not suffer heavy casualties like the previous few times. All the credit was given to Yiguchen. It could be said that Yiguchen's reputation in the Sword Sect Tower Forest was second only to Feng Manlu and the other 2 divine-dwelling stage experts. Even the reputation of the inner court elders was not as good as Yiguchen. After the exchange, there was another thing that everyone was interested in. It was the duel between Yiguchen and Yang Haotsang. One of them was a sword sect master who was unparalleled in the way of the sword. The other was the little war emperor who was invincible in battle and defeated his peers. It could be said that these 2 top heavens prides had their own reputations. Now that they had set up a duel with the condition of killing the chosen, everyone was amazed by their generosity. It was because of this that the duel was so eye-catching. After the exchange, the little war emperor began to investigate the barbarian tribes' movements and began to attack. On the other side, Yiguchen was still in a coma. Many people were not optimistic about Yiguchen's chances. In terms of time, Yiguchen was in an absolute disadvantage. Moreover, he did not know when he would fully recover from his injuries. Yiguchen didn't wake up until 10 days after the exchange meeting. In a quiet room of an inn, Yiguchen opened his eyes. He got up to check his body's condition. The situation was better than Yiguchen had expected. His physical body's recovery ability was very strong. With the help of the flawless Vajra body and the quasi-sage pill, he could feel his body's recovery ability. Furthermore, Yiguchen could feel that his body had been nourished by true qi. It was obvious that Feng Manlu had used true qi to heal his injuries while he was unconscious. As for the Thunder Disaster Sword and the 5-colored golden core, they would automatically sink into the deepest part of Yiguchen's dantian when perceived by the outside world. Therefore, Feng Manlu did not discover them. He also did not deliberately explore the secrets in Yiguchen's body. With all these reasons added together, Yiguchen's injuries had mostly healed. After a few more days of recuperation, he would more or less recover. Although I've suffered heavy injuries during this exchange, I've also gained a lot, Yiguchen thought to himself. His boundless Kiliakosm sword art had finally reached the level of transformation, and he had comprehended the ultimate killing move, boundless Kiliakosm. Moreover, he had also comprehended the void sword technique to the perfection of martial arts and comprehended the void 10,000 ripples. Most importantly, he could finally start to practice the superior king's level sword art, Great Void Sword Wave, which he had obtained from the sword pavilion in the Void Sword realm. Yiguchen believed that this king's level sword art would not disappoint him. Just as Yiguchen was thinking, there was a knock on his door, and a girl's cold voice sounded, "Are you awake?" Yiguchen raised his eyebrows slightly. "Please come in." The door was pushed open, and Yan Wushuang entered with a bowl of medicinal porridge. Her figure was slender, and the ice silk soft armor fit her perfect curves perfectly. Her pair of stunning long legs glowed with an ivory white luster, perfectly straight and round. Her delicate face was slightly red, not because she was shy, but because she was a little ashamed. There was a hint of complexity in her beautiful eyes. "Drink the medicinal porridge. It's better for your body." Yan Wushuang handed the medicinal porridge to Yiguchen. Yiguchen looked at Yan Wushuang in surprise. He was used to Yan Wushuang's arrogant and indifferent character, so he could not adapt to her sudden change. Yiguchen nodded slightly, took the medicinal porridge, and drank a mouthful. His face froze. Yan Wushuang was a little nervous, biting her red lips. "You made the porridge?" Yiguchen said after swallowing a mouthful. "Yes." Yan Wushuang, who was originally arrogant and strong, was a little embarrassed at the moment, and her cheeks were a little hot. "It tastes terrible," Yiguchen said truthfully. "You." Yan Wushuang's face froze, and she stamped her feet with a little embarrassment. It was the first time for someone like her, who had never done chores, to make porridge for someone, but she received such an unromantic evaluation. Looking at Yan Wushuang, who was acting like a little girl, Yiguchen was also surprised. He did not expect Yan Wushuang to have such a side. However, the preconceived idea still made Yiguchen have no good impression of Yan Wushuang. But he still drank the medicinal porridge. "Thank you," Yiguchen said indifferently. As if she could hear the distance in Yiguchen's words, Yan Wushuang clenched her hands and said, "Yiguchen, I know that because of my stubbornness and my desire to become Uncle Feng's successor, I was biased against you and hurt your self-esteem. You are wrong," Yiguchen said indifferently. "What?" Yan Wushuang did not understand. "You have never hurt my self-esteem, because I have never cared about your attitude," Yiguchen said in a calm and casual tone. These words made Yan Wushuang's mouth bitter. It turned out that Yiguchen had never cared about her from the beginning to the end. He had never cared about her coldness and arrogance. Now that Yan Wushuang thought about it, how ridiculous and arrogant she was when she thought that Yiguchen's true qi was crippled and his strength was weak. However, the person who turned the tide in the current exchange meeting was not her, Yan Wushuang, but Yi Guqian, whom she had looked down upon. "I'm sorry," Yan Wushuang said while biting her lip. She knew that Yi Guqian's first impression of her had already been set and it would be difficult to change it. "Your arrogance is not wrong, but unfortunately, you used it in the wrong place," Yi Guqian said while shaking his head slightly. "What do you mean?" Yan Wushuang asked. "As a sword cultivator, it should be the sword that is arrogant, not the person," Yi Guqian said indifferently. His words were simple, but they seemed to contain the truth. "It is the sword that is arrogant, not the person." Yan Wushuang seemed to understand. Yan Wushuang had always thought that her swordsmanship was unparalleled. In fact, her true arrogance was in herself, not in the sword. "Thank you, I seem to have understood something." Yan Wushuang felt enlightened and her mind seemed to have cleared up a little. Ahem, did I disturb you?" Chu Qingqi coughed at the door. Yan Wushuang blushed and hurriedly left. Seeing this, Chu Qingqi could not help but click his tongue and sigh, "Brother Yi, I really envy you. You managed to pluck the untouchable flower of our sword sex pagoda forest." Yi Guqian shook his head and said, "Let's not joke around." "Brother Chu, what's the matter?" "There are 3 things. The first is naturally the bet between you and the young war emperor. I heard that the young war emperor immediately attacked after the exchange. It seems that he has already killed 2 barbarian saints." 2 saints. Yi Guqian's expression was indifferent. In 10 days, he had killed 2 saints. The young war emperor lived up to his reputation. "Brother Yi, you are still recuperating, but the young war emperor has already killed 2 saints." This, obviously, even Chu Qingqi was a little worried about whether Yi Guqian could win the bet. "Brother Chu, you don't have to worry about this." Yi Guqian did not care and was not in a hurry. "The second thing is about the Shinto family. They have sent out wedding invitations. They will be holding the wedding of Shinto Miao and Gongsun Xiaoya in a month. Even our sword sex pagoda forest received an invitation." Chu Qingqi said. "Oh, Shinto Miao is a disciple of the sealed saber royal palace. He actually sent an invitation to the sword sex pagoda forest?" Yi Guqian asked. "Ah. To be able to have a marriage alliance with the Gongsun family, the Shinto family can't wait to show off. If they were to really board the Gongsun family's ship, then even the 7 major factions would not dare to belittle the Shinto family." Hearing this, Yi Guqian nodded in agreement. As a forging family, the Gongsun family's influence was not inferior to the 7 major forces. Of course, our sword sex pagoda forest does not have the time to go. "Brother Yi, do you want to go and watch the show?" Yi Guqian shook his head slightly. He suddenly remembered that Xiao Wanru should be marrying Shinto Miao on the same day. However, Yi Guqian had already given her a chance to choose. In the end, Xiao Wanru chose to accept her fate. The jade slip was also thrown into the smelly ditch by Madame Xiao. Since that was the case, Yi Guqian naturally could not be bothered with this kind of thing. After all, they had only met by chance. Chapter 441. What's the other thing? Yi Guqian asked. Chu Qingqi said, "Zither Fairy is here. She asked me to tell you to recuperate and not force yourself. Your health is the most important thing." "Where is she?" Yi Guqian asked. "She's gone," Chu Qingqi said. "Is that so? I see." Yi Guqian sighed. Zither Fairy's feelings were already known when he climbed the thunder tide in the Void Sword realm. But it was destined to have no ending. Yi Guqian was not a sentimental person. His relationship with Su Jianshi and Situ Hongxue could not be severed. It was impossible for him to make any promises to others. He and Zither Fairy were like a bird and a fish, gazing at each other across the sea. They could keep each other company as friends, but they could not be together forever. "Brother Yi, recuperate well," Chu Qingqi said and left. Yi Guqian took out some healing elixirs again and began to recuperate. At the same time, he began to practice the great void sword wave in his mind. Yiguchen, who possessed the heart integrated into sword, could form a virtual image of a sword in his mind. Although the great illusionary sword ripple was a top-grade king-level sword art, it was impossible to master it overnight. However, with the accumulation of many little drops, there would come a day when he would be able to comprehend it. This recuperation lasted for another 5 days. There was only half a month left before the bet. Many warriors in northern Yang City began to discuss in private again. That sword master has been recuperating for half a month and hasn't left the inn. As for the young war emperor, I heard that he has already killed the third saint. It seems that sword master will definitely lose this bet. But it's also because of his injuries. That only means that Yiguchen is overestimating himself and is a reckless man. He made such a bet with such an arrogant tone, but he doesn't have the ability to fulfill it. Some warriors who sided with the limitless sword sect and other forces spoke with disdain. But no matter what, most warriors in northern Yang City believed that Yiguchen would probably lose. After recuperating for 15 days, Yiguchen finally walked out of the inn. Not long after the end of the exchange, the 7 great forces also officially started a war with the barbarian tribe. A tug of war broke out in many cities of the Great Desolate Prefecture. I can finally make my move. Yiguchen's internal injuries were almost completely healed. During this time, Yiguchen also took advantage of the time to comprehend the Great Void Sword Wave. Yiguchen shook his head. Supreme Grade King level swordsmanship is indeed difficult to comprehend. It took me 5 days to reach the beginner level. However, if his words were to spread, the group of Sword Dao Grandmasters would definitely be speechless. Even a divine dwelling expert would not be able to reach the initial glimpse stage of a top-grade king-level sword technique in just 5 days. Yiguchen actually thought it was too slow. At the initial glimpse stage, one could unleash 30% of the martial arts power. However, even though it was only 30%, Yiguchen felt that it was almost as powerful as the ultimate move of the Void Sword technique, the 10,000 Void Wave. The power of a top-grade king-level sword technique was indeed far superior to that of a spirit-level sword technique. In addition, Yiguchen was also concentrating on studying the final 6th move of the God-slaying sword technique. Yiguchen vaguely guessed that the power of the 6th move would not be weaker than Wind Mark, the ultimate move of wind-sweeping building. However, the comprehension of the 6th move also required an opportunity and could not be rushed. Now, it's time to go out. Yiguchen thought to himself. With wind-sweeping building's influence, no matter how much the Limitless Sword sect and other forces hated him, they would not send experts to attack him. Under such circumstances, it would not benefit any of the forces if a civil war broke out. The news of Yiguchen leaving the inn fell into the ears of some people. However, there was only half a month left before the bet. No one believed that Yiguchen could still catch up with the young war emperor. Just as Yiguchen was about to leave northern Yang City, a beautiful figure dressed in white blocked his path. LV Qinghan. Looking at the beautiful figure that was as cold as a fairy, Yiguchen's eyes were as calm as an ancient well. Yiguchen, you have exceeded my expectations. Not only do you have an unparalleled talent in swordsmanship, but you also have a top-notch talent in forging. LV Qinghan's beautiful eyes revealed a strange light as she stared at Yiguchen. I presume you are not here to flatter me, right? Yiguchen said indifferently. Qinghan has never met you before, so I could not imagine how outstanding you are. Now, it's no wonder that junior sister Qin is so infatuated with you. However, does she exist in your heart? LV Qinghan asked. She is a very good friend. Yiguchen said truthfully. Is that all? LV Qinghan frowned slightly. That's all, Yiguchen said. Then have you ever thought about junior sister Qin's feelings? Since you have no intention of accepting her, why are you giving her hope? LV Qinghan frowned. Do you mean that we can't even be friends? Yiguchen said. If you don't mean it, you will only hurt junior sister Qin. Why don't you let go and break off the relationship? Let her find her own happiness and forget about each other. Isn't it better than being entangled with each other? LV Qinghan said casually. She was so calm and casual as if it was a matter of course. Yi Guqin's eyes turned slightly cold. What does this have to do with you? What right do you have to interfere? He understood the meaning behind LV Qinghan's words. It was very simple. Break off the relationship and stay away from Zither Fairy. However, Yi Guqin could not accept Zither Fairy's feelings. But what did this have to do with LV Qinghan? I am Zither Fairy's senior sister, and I was also instructed by the palace master to take good care of her. I can't bear to see her so sad day and night. You have now become an inner demon to Zither Fairy, LV Qinghan said matter-of-factly. Aren't you thinking too much? Did Zither Fairy ever need you to help her? Yi Guqin said coldly. I am doing this for her own good. Junior sister Qin will naturally be grateful to me in the future, and now there are better people to choose from. Since you won't choose junior sister Qin, why don't you let go? LV Qinghan shook her head slightly. Who? Yi Guqin asked. Little Spirit Emperor Zhou Tong. Whether it is character, temperament, appearance, or strength, he is excellent. And he is also in love with junior sister Qin. His appearance is the same, LV Qinghan said lightly. Does this mean that Yi Guqin is not what he appears to be? Is he a hypocrite? Yi Guqin suddenly understood. He finally understood why Zhou Tong would secretly target him at the exchange. So it was because of this. But it was even more impossible for Yi Guqin to give up. Yi Guqin was not too clear about Zhou Tong's character, but just based on his scheming and shrewdness, he was definitely not a gentleman who was the same as his appearance. It seemed that LV Qinghan was also deceived by Zhou Tong. Let me warn you, you can't judge a person based on their appearance. Be careful that you don't meet a good person, Yi Guqin reminded kindly. Zhou Tong always gave him the feeling that he was a smiling tiger. If he was deceived by him, he would definitely regret it in the future. Yi Guqin, although Qinghan respects you as a sword master, if you casually slander others like this, Qinghan's character will inevitably make Qinghan somewhat disappointed. LV Qinghan sighed. She was indeed somewhat disappointed. The sword master who had swept away all four sides at the exchange was actually so narrow-minded, casually suspecting others. This made LV Qinghan even more determined to make Zither Fairy give up on Yi Guqin. Seeing LV Qinghan's expression, Yi Guqin knew that he could not persuade her. Oftentimes, the more intelligent a woman was, the more foolish she would become under certain circumstances. There is no need for you to worry about the matters between Zither Fairy and I, and there is also no need for you to meddle in other people's business. Yi Guqin did not want to waste any more time. He glanced indifferently at LV Qinghan, then left directly. LV Qinghan did not stop him. She shook her head and sighed, muttering to herself, who would have thought that the sword master only had talent and strength, but his character would be like this. Zhou Tong is really much better than him. I really don't know what junior sister Qin is thinking. LV Qinghan knew that she was doing this for Zither Fairy's sake. But did Zither Fairy need her to do this? Chapter 442. After leaving LV Qinghan, Yi Guqin went on the road alone. He did not go with the other disciples of the Sword Sect Pagoda Forest. Because he had the Blood Barbarian Tribe's kill talisman in his body, he had to face the cruel and violent holy sons and saintesses of the Blood Barbarian Tribe. Moreover, this was a battle between Yi Guqin and the young war emperor. They could only rely on their own strength and could not rely on external forces. But Yi Guqin was confident that he could defeat the holy sons and saintesses of the Blood Barbarian Tribe. As for the Blood Barbarian Tribe experts above the life and death realm, they would not easily make a move. Just like the experts of the 7 major forces, they would not deliberately kill the holy sons or totem warriors of the barbarian tribe. Soldiers against soldiers, generals against generals. This had always been the tacit agreement of the 7 major forces and the barbarian tribe. After Yi Guqin left northern Liang City, in a remote tavern in northern Liang City, It was a handsome young man who was dead drunk and looked dispirited. It was Bai Zichen. Unknowingly, a white-robed figure with an elegant temperament stood in front of him, waving a folding fan. Bai Zichen raised his head slightly. TSK, I didn't expect that the former second in the inner yard, second only to Yan Wushuang, would be in such dire straits. The white-robed figure was none other than Zhou Tong. Are you here to laugh at me? Bai Zichen shook his head and ignored him, continuing to drink. Are you willing to be defeated by Yi Guchen like this? Zhou Tong said indifferently. Oh, if it were you, would you be able to defeat him? Bai Zichen now recognized his own strength. It was impossible for him to defeat Yi Guchen. Sigh, only knowing how to use force is the behavior of a boorish man. And what you really want is not to defeat Yi Guchen, but to kill him, isn't that right? Zhou Tong's tone was secretive as he looked deeply at Bai Zichen. Bai Zichen's drunken state immediately sobered up. Although in his heart, he really wanted Yi Guchen dead. However, he could not show it on the surface. After all, he was still a disciple of the Sword Sect Pagoda Forest. If he wanted to kill Yi Guchen, the Sword Sect Pagoda Forest would expel him. They might even punish him directly. What grudge do you have with Yi Guchen? Bai Zichen did not answer the question directly. Instead, he asked a question of his own. You don't have to be so cautious. Since we have the same goal, we can cooperate. I can promise you that as long as we join forces, Yi Guchen will definitely die. Zhou Tong's tone was extremely calm, as if victory was already in his grasp. What do you want me to do? Bai Zichen did not waste any more time, as the hatred he had for Yi Guchen in his heart had reached a monstrous level that could not be soothed or washed away. Yi Guchen has just left northern Liang City. I'm very curious as to how he will honor his bet. Zhou Tong said. Those who are good at scheming will never underestimate their enemies. Zhou Tong was the same. He felt that Yi Guchen definitely had more than a 50% chance of winning. That was why he dared to make such a bet. Of course, it was unrealistic to want to kill Yi Guchen now. After all, the exchange had just ended and Feng Manlu had just issued a warning. If Yi Guchen died now, Feng Manlu would definitely not let the matter rest. Zhou Tong wanted Yi Guchen to die, but he could not implicate himself. Right now, he only wanted to know more about Yi Guchen's trump cards. When the time came, he would set up a killing move. Sure, I will follow him. Bai Zichen said. Zhou Tong nodded slightly and took out a human skin mask from his origin ring, as well as a set of ordinary linen clothes. Bai Zichen's heart tightened when he saw this. It seemed that Zhou Tong had already expected that he would be convinced. Thinking of this, Bai Zichen could not help but feel a sense of anticipation. With such a scheming opponent like Zhou Tong, it would be difficult for Yi Guchen to survive. Yi Guchen did not know that Zhou Tong had already begun to secretly plot against him. At this moment, he had already left northern Liang City and had completely entered the battlefield between the barbarian race and the seven great forces. Now, whether it was the seven great forces or the barbarian race, the high-level experts were still biding their time. Most of them were saints, saintesses, and top heaven's prides. After 2 days, Yi Guchen was already very far away from northern Liang City. Almost at the same time, the saints and saintesses of the blood barbarian race also moved. The prey has finally come out. Xue Chan, the saintess of the blood barbarian race, stuck out the tip of her scarlet tongue and licked her fiery red lips. These saints and saintesses had long received a message from the priests of their race. With a secret technique, they could sense Yi Guchen's position and movements at any time. Previously, Yi Guchen had been in northern Liang City, so they could not kill him at all. Now that Yi Guchen had come out, these saints and saintesses of the blood barbarian race naturally would not let him go. Sigh, poor man. But now, I have another thing to do. Xue Chan smiled charmingly, then turned her head and asked, have you found the whereabouts of the saintess of the water tribe? Saintess, the saintess of the water tribe should be heading towards northern Liang City, a totem warrior of the blood barbarian race beside her replied. Oh, she wants to escape into the territory of the seven great forces? How naive. With her identity as a barbarian, those people will not let her go. But for the promise of Kue Shue Inji, I must kill her with my own hands and not let the others have the upper hand, Shui-chan muttered to herself. Kue Shue Inji was the other saintess of the Water Tribe. Like the Wood Tribe, the Water Tribe was originally peaceful. But recently, there seemed to be a big change in the Water Tribe. With the appearance of Saintess Kue Shue Inji, the entire Water Tribe began to stir. Of course, Shui-chan did not care about this. She only cared about the promise of Kue Shue Inji. Whoever killed the Saintess of the Water Tribe would get 3 divine items of the Water attribute. The divine items of the Water attribute were also very attractive to the Blood Barbarian race saints and saintesses. The direction of the Saintess of the Water Tribe is the same as the prey. I can catch them all in one fell swoop, Shui-chan thought to herself and set off. At the same time, the other Blood Barbarian race saints and saintesses, including the strongest saint of the Blood Barbarian race, Shui Wuchang, were also preparing to set off. For a moment, a storm was brewing. At this time, Yiguchin had been traveling alone for 3 days. In addition to the previous 15 days, it had been 18 days. There were only 12 days left before the 1-month agreement. Blood Barbarian race, why haven't you shown up yet? Yiguchin sighed. A city appeared in his field of vision. There were more than 100 cities in the Great Wilderness Mansion, and 1/3 of them had been occupied by the barbarian race. The city in front of him had not been touched by the barbarian race. Yiguchin pondered for a moment and entered the city. This city was called Black Rock City, and it was heavily guarded. However, there were no experts in the life and death realm. After all, this was only a small city, and it was not luxurious enough for a life and death realm expert to guard it. There were very few people in Black Rock City. Other than the soldiers in armor, there were very few ordinary people. At this moment, there was a sudden commotion in front of him. Have you heard? Someone caught a barbarian race spy. It's a woman, and she will be beheaded on the execution platform soon. Some people whispered to each other and hurriedly walked in a certain direction. A barbarian race spy. Yiguchin thought to himself and followed them. Not long after, Yiguchin arrived at the execution platform. There was already a circle of people and a row of soldiers around it. On the viewing platform of the execution platform, a pot-bellied sergeant was eating grapes as he looked coldly at the woman who was tied to the execution platform. It was a woman with an extremely beautiful face. She was as gentle as water, and her skin was especially clear and sparkling like water. Nothing could be more beautiful than this. The only thing that made her different from ordinary people was that her hair was aqua blue in color, and on her forehead, there were 2 translucent jade horns that looked like deer antlers. At the same time, Yiguchin could feel the water-type totem power hidden in her body. However, this woman seemed to be seriously injured, which was why she did not have the slightest strength to resist. However, at this moment, 3 figures rushed to the execution platform. 2 of them were a shabbily dressed middle-aged couple, and the other was a cute little girl. Please don't kill my sister. She's a good person. She saved us from the barbarian race. The little girl begged. Yiguchin raised his eyebrows. It seemed that things were not as simple as they seemed. Chapter 443. Outside the execution platform, the family of 3 knelt on the ground and kept begging. Please let the young lady go. She did save our family. The middle-aged couple also knelt on the ground and begged. Are you all blind? Can't you see that she is from the barbarian tribe? Now that the barbarian tribe is invading, any barbarian tribe member is our mortal enemy. Since I, Wu Fugue, have caught this spy, of course I have to kill her. The sergeant named Wu Fugue said righteously. He spoke righteously on the surface, but he was very happy in his heart. After catching the barbarian tribe spy and beheading her, he could ask for credit from the city lord. If he was lucky, he might even be promoted and get rich. Wu Fugue didn't care whether the barbarian tribe woman was innocent or not. It had nothing to do with him. What a pity. That barbarian tribe woman is so beautiful, but I have to kill her before I can enjoy her. Wu Fugue sighed in his heart. That woman was different from ordinary barbarian tribe women. She was as gentle as water and made people's hearts itch. However, she was caught in public. Although Wu Fugue had his own thoughts, he couldn't do anything to her. He could only drag her to the execution platform. Sir, you have to distinguish right from wrong. The young lady really saved our family of 3. The 3 people continued to plead. They also wanted to repay the kindness. Looking at the surrounding crowd, there seemed to be a faint commotion. Wu Fugue's face darkened. He waved his hand and said, "Guards, the 3 of them have violated the rules of the execution platform. Drive them out." Immediately, a group of sergeants rushed up and drove the family of 3 away. However, the little girl shrank her body and squeezed through the gap between the sergeants. She ran toward the blue-haired woman who was tied to the execution platform. "Sister, I'm here to save you." The little girl's eyes were full of persistence. "No, leave quickly." At this time, the blue-haired barbarian tribe woman suddenly said. Her voice was as gentle as water, but at this moment, it was filled with anxiety. "Humph, you don't know how to appreciate kindness." On the platform, Wu Fugue's face darkened. He struck out with his palm, and a handprint imbued with vigorous true qi violently swept towards the little girl. Wu Fugue was also an expert in the 7th transformation of divine soul. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to become a sergeant. Everyone present cried out in alarm when they saw this. With this palm strike, even if the little girl didn't die, she would be seriously injured. The barbarian woman's expression changed. The expressions of the couple changed abruptly. Some people couldn't bear it and turned their heads away. They didn't want to see that cruel scene. At this moment, an afterimage suddenly flashed by and carried the little girl away in an instant. The true qi palm print smashed into the ground with a loud bang, causing smoke and dust to fly everywhere. "Who is it?" Wu Fugue's face suddenly darkened. With him, an expert in the 7th transformation of divine soul, overseeing the execution ground, there was actually someone who dared to make a move. The little girl's body was still trembling slightly. She slowly opened her closed eyes and saw the black-robed youth with an indifferent expression. "Thank you, big brother, for saving me," the little girl said gratefully. Yiguchin nodded slightly and turned to look at the barbarian woman. The barbarian woman's gaze immediately fell on Yiguchin. With just one look, the barbarian woman felt a sense of danger. This young man is definitely an expert. The barbarian woman thought to herself. Not to mention that she was seriously injured, even if she was in her best condition, she knew that it would be difficult for her to deal with this young man in front of her. This young man looked so young, but he was so powerful. Could it be? The barbarian woman had a guess in her heart. However, she couldn't protect herself at this moment, so she couldn't guess Yiguchin's attitude. When Wu Fugue saw that someone had appeared and disturbed the order of the execution ground, he immediately stood up and said with a stern expression, "Who are you?" Black Rock City was a small city and it was also very far from northern Yang City. Therefore, the news about Yiguchin had not reached here. However, even if Wu Fugue had heard the news, he had never seen Yiguchin. It was impossible for him to know that the indifferent young man in front of him was the famous sword master. Taking someone's life without distinguishing between right and wrong is not justifiable even for a barbarian, right? Yiguchin said indifferently. He didn't make a move because he had nothing better to do. Instead, he thought that he could find out about the barbarian tribe from this barbarian woman. Therefore, he naturally wanted to protect this barbarian woman for the time being. The woman's clear blue eyes revealed a trace of surprise when she heard this. This unfamiliar young man actually wanted to save her. How dare you? This person wants to protect the barbarian tribe. He must be in cahoots with the barbarian tribe. He is a spy. Men, capture him and behead him together. Wu Fugue shouted loudly. Some of the soldiers in the surroundings surrounded Yiguchen. Yiguchen's eyes darkened slightly. After thinking for a while, he took out a token. It was the purple gold token from the Sword Master's Pagoda Forest. If someone was slightly more knowledgeable, they would definitely recognize that this token came from the Sword Master's Pagoda Forest, one of the 7 superpowers. The barbarian woman recognized the token the moment Yiguchen took it out. Her eyes narrowed slightly. No wonder, the barbarian woman thought to herself. Then, she felt relieved. Only in the 7 superpowers would there be such a young expert. As a barbarian woman, she had naturally seen this token before. However, Wu Fugue did not seem to have such knowledge. When he saw Yiguchen take out the token, he sneered and said, "Now you know to be afraid. What's the use of taking out a lousy token? Do you think it can intimidate me?" Wu Fugue's face was arrogant as he waved his hand. The surrounding soldiers straightened up and charged forward. Yiguchen shook his head slightly and did not say anything else. He did not even take out the Xianming heavy sword. He only flicked his fingers and used the 6 meridian divine sword. Streaks of sword chi shot out from his fingertips and bombarded the soldiers. Of course, Yiguchen held back. He only sent the soldiers flying and did not seriously injure them. This, looking at the soldier who was beaten to a pulp in the blink of an eye, regardless of whether it was Wu Fugue or the surrounding crowd who were watching the show, all of their faces revealed astonishment. Wu Fugue asked himself. If it were him, an expert in the 7th transformation of godly soul, it would be impossible for him to deal with so many soldiers alone. However, Yiguchen did not even move. With a few flicks of his fingers, he wiped out all the soldiers. Someone, go to the governor's mansion and ask for help." Wu Fugue's eyes were filled with panic. The strength that Yiguchen displayed had deeply shocked him. For a moment, he did not even dare to move and could only shout. Immediately, there were soldiers who ran to the governor's mansion. Yiguchen was not in a hurry. He just stood there calmly with his hands behind his back. "Big brother is so powerful." The little girl blinked her big eyes and revealed a look of admiration. "Humph, who told you to be arrogant? The governor is an expert in the 9th transformation of godly soul and there is the black armored army. You can't escape today." Wu Fugue thought coldly. After a while, the sound of horse hooves could be heard from afar. A group of black armored cavalry rushed over. The leader was a dignified middle-aged man. It was the governor of Black Rock City. "Governor, you are finally here. This person is extremely arrogant and wanted to kidnap the barbarian girl. He must be a spy from the barbarian tribe. I beg you to punish this spy." When the governor of Black Rock City arrived, Wu Fugue immediately ran up and said righteously. "Oh, is that so?" The governor of Black Rock City frowned. If that was the case, then he must take down the young man in front of him. In the face of the governor of Black Rock City, Yiguchen's expression was calm. He took out the purple gold token and said casually, "I only need an explanation." When he saw the purple gold token, the governor of Black Rock City's pupils suddenly shrank. His eyes were filled with shock and awe. Wu Fugue was ignorant and could not recognize the token. However, as a governor of a city, the governor of Black Rock City naturally knew the meaning of the token. "Governor, please punish this traitor severely. Take him down and behead him in public." Wu Fugue was still unaware of his situation. His face was filled with righteousness. "You scoundrel." The governor of Black Rock City slapped Wu Fugue across the face and sent him flying dozens of feet away. Blood and teeth flew out of his mouth at the same time. The entire execution ground was dead silent. Chapter 444. Everyone present, regardless of whether they were spectators or soldiers, was stunned. In the entire Black Rock City, besides the Black Rock City governor, the person with the highest status was Wu Fugue. Furthermore, Wu Fugue was usually trusted by the Black Rock City governor. However, at this moment, the Black Rock City governor had indeed made a move. However, his target was not Yiguchin but Wu Fugue. City governor, what's wrong with you? The traitor is right there. Wu Fugue still did not understand. He covered his face with one hand and pointed at Yiguchin with the other. His face was filled with confusion. You bastard! How dare you say that the prodigies of the 7 superpowers are spies of the barbarian tribe? When the Black Rock City governor saw this, he wanted to skin Wu Fugue alive. He was only a small city governor. However, he recognized the purple gold token that the young man had taken out. Even in the Sword Sect Tower, only the top prodigies of the inner yard could possess such a token. In addition, the Black Rock City governor had vaguely heard some news over the past few days and roughly knew what had happened in northern Yang City. The young man in front of him, regardless of his appearance or temperament, matched the brilliant prodigy perfectly. There was no doubt about the young man's identity. However, the Black Rock City governor immediately stepped forward and cupped his hands slightly towards Yiguchin. I am the Black Rock City governor. It is my honor to be able to meet the Sword Sect Tower's Sword Sect Tower, Lord Yiguchin. The Black Rock City governor's words caused everyone present to be completely dumbfounded. Sword Sect? Yiguchin. Wu Fugue's brain buzzed as if thousands of thunderbolts had struck him. His entire body froze on the spot as if he had lost his soul. His face instantly turned pale. Although he did not know what had happened in northern Yang City, he knew about the Sword Sect Tower and Yiguchin. That young man is the rumored dead Yiguchin. Wu Fugue's body trembled like a sieve. The Black Rock City governor's words made him feel as if he had fallen into an ice cave. What? That young man is Yiguchin. Wasn't the Sword Sect rumored to be dead? How could that be? Your news is outdated. I heard a few days ago that Yiguchin's sword prowess was unrivaled during the exchange. He swept away all the geniuses of his generation. A commotion broke out around the execution ground. When Wu Fugue heard this, his face turned ashen. When the female berserker who was bound to the execution platform heard the discussions around her, a surprised look appeared on her delicate face. Yiguchin had a certain reputation even among the barbarian tribe. After all, many holy sons and holy daughters of the barbarian tribe would also pay attention to the geniuses of the 7 forces. Previously, a sacred child from the Berserker tribe had said that the death of Yiguchin from the Sword Sect meant that they had one less great enemy. But now, not only was Yiguchin not dead, he seemed to have become even stronger. This was not good news for the barbarian holy sons and saintesses. However, when she thought about her current situation, she couldn't help but reveal a self-deprecating smile. He couldn't even protect himself, so why would he care about such things? Black Rock City Governor, I want to take this person away. Do you have any objections? Yiguchin pointed at the female berserker tribe and asked. No objections, of course I have no objections. The Black Rock City governor nodded repeatedly and continued, and this Wu Fugue, since he dared to offend you, I will strip him of his position as sergeant and throw him into prison. When Wu Fugue heard this, his face turned pale and his lips trembled. Not only was his dream of being promoted and getting rich shattered, but he also ended up in such a miserable state. It was all because he didn't recognize the identity of the young man in front of him. Yiguchin nodded indifferently. He didn't care about Wu Fugue at all. Then, Yiguchin took the female berserker tribe away. The family of 3 also thanked Yiguchin profusely. In a secluded courtyard in Black Rock City, Yiguchin sized up the female berserker tribe. The closer he looked at her, the more he felt that she had a temperament that was as gentle as water. With her long blue hair and snow-white skin, she looked as beautiful as an ice sculpture. The 2 jade-like horns on her forehead didn't ruin her temperament. Instead, it made her even more mysterious. Feeling Yiguchin's gaze, the female berserker tribe felt a little uneasy. Yiguchin waved his hand and took out a few supreme-grade healing elixirs. The female berserker tribe accepted the elixirs and swallowed them without hesitation. I need to know everything you know. Yiguchin didn't beat around the bush and said directly. The female berserker tribe was stunned. However, she knew that she couldn't refute and sighed. I am the dragon lady of the water tribe. So you are the holy lady of the water tribe? Yiguchin thought to himself. Then, the dragon lady told Yiguchin about the situation. The water tribe was originally a peaceful tribe. However, with the appearance of the other holy lady, Kue Shue Inji, the entire water tribe was in turmoil and even split up. At the same time, Kue Shue Inji seized the opportunity when the dragon lady came out to secretly surround and kill her. Some of the servants of the dragon lady were killed. Only the dragon lady barely escaped. Kue Shue Inji was also the holy lady of the water tribe. Naturally, she couldn't do it herself, so she contacted the blood barbarians. The dragon lady was besieged by the blood barbarians. She had no choice but to escape to Bailiang City, which was within the territory of the Seven Forces. You have the blood barbarians' kill talisman in your body? Yiguchin asked. The dragon lady nodded slightly. If not, she wouldn't have been chased by the blood barbarians. I think those barbarians will catch up soon, Yiguchin said. Aren't you afraid? Let's leave, the dragon lady said. The kill talisman in her body only needed to last for a month. After a month, when the crisis was over, the dragon lady could quietly return to the water tribe and compete with Kue Shue Inji again. Leave? Why should we leave? Let's stay here and wait for them to come. The 1-month deadline was approaching. Now that the dragon lady was here, she would attract more holy sons and holy ladies. How could Yiguchin let go of such an opportunity? I've heard some news about you, but the holy sons and holy ladies of the blood barbarians are very powerful, the dragon lady said solemnly. What's there to be afraid of? Yiguchin said casually. The dragon lady sighed in her heart. She thought that Yiguchin was a bit arrogant. Yiguchin might not be able to deal with Xue Wuchang, not to mention the other holy sons and holy ladies of the blood barbarians. Of course, that was just the dragon lady's thought. She never knew Yiguchin's true strength. To thank you for saving me, I'll give this to you. The dragon lady hesitated for a moment and then took out a jade pendant. The jade pendant was crystal clear like water. There seemed to be flowing chalcedony in the jade. This is... Yiguchin was surprised. He felt the water snake totem in the 5-color golden core in his body tremble. This is black water jade, a water divine item of the water tribe. Although it's not the most precious divine item, it's still very rare. The dragon lady handed the jade to Yiguchin. Since Yiguchin had saved her life, she couldn't not repay him. Yiguchin didn't refuse and took the black water jade. Both were divine items of the 5 elements, but the quality of the black water jade was lower than the green wood heart of the young war emperor. But since it was a divine item, it naturally had its uses. Yiguchin went straight into the house, trying to figure out the effects of the 5 elements divine items on the 5-colored golden elixir. Chapter 445. Yiguchin sat cross-legged in his room. He held the black aqua jade in his hand and activated the 5-colored golden core in his dantian. Among the 5-colored golden core, the fire vermilion bird totem was the most powerful, followed by the wood azure dragon totem. The metal white tiger totem, the water soaring snake totem, and the earth black tortoise totem had no power at all. Now, Yiguchin planned to guide the water mystical power in the black aqua jade to the soaring snake totem. As time passed, Yiguchin felt that the pure water mystical power in the black aqua jade was gradually gathering in his dantian and 5-colored golden core along his meridians. Then, it was all absorbed by the soaring snake totem. The soaring snake totem was of the water attribute, and its power attribute was compatible with the black aqua jade. In an instant, Yiguchin felt a water totem power flowing in his body. He felt as if he was in the water, and he felt as if he was as good as water. It even seemed to touch Yiguchen's heartstrings, and he had a vague understanding of the water sword principle. The 5 elemental sacred items have such an effect? Yiguchen was surprised. He had thought that the 5 elemental sacred items could at most provide a boost in strength, but he did not expect it to have such an effect on the intent realm. If he could get a few more sacred items, or higher quality sacred items, wouldn't he be able to comprehend the sword essence directly? If that was the case, then comprehending the 5 elemental sword essence and combining them would not be an extravagant hope. Yiguchen was more determined to get the young war emperor's verdant wood heart. In the following time, Yiguchen kept absorbing the energy in the black aqua jade. Dragoness, on the other hand, was surprised by this unexpected development. This was because she could feel that the supreme totem in her body was being suppressed. And the source of the suppression came from the room where Yiguchen was cultivating. How is it possible that my supreme totem is being suppressed? Dragon Lady's blue eyes were filled with surprise. Her totem was the supreme totem of the water tribe, the serene water blue serpent. This was also because she was born with a special physique and had a trace of the water dragon's bloodline, which allowed her to awaken such a powerful totem. This was why she was called the Dragon Lady. However, her blue serene serpent totem had never been suppressed, let alone in the water tribe, even when she was competing with the holy sons and holy daughters of the other barbarian tribes. But now, it was being suppressed by Yiguchen's aura. Impossible. Could it be that Yiguchen also has a totem? No way. It is impossible for an outsider to have a supreme totem. Or is she practicing some secret technique? Dragon Lady was extremely confused. Among the information she had received, Yiguchen was a sword cultivator, but at this moment, he released an aura and power that could suppress her blue serene serpent totem. Moreover, as time passed, that power became more and more intense. In the end, in the dragon girl's body, the serene blue flood dragon totem couldn't help but manifest on its own. On the surface of Dragoness's body, an illusory blue water serpent appeared. That was a technique that all totem awakened. Totem spirit manifestation. What is going on? Dragon Lady was completely confused. The serene blue flood dragon hissed, with a kind of reverence and a kind of desire. What is Yiguchen doing? Why does he make the serene blue flood dragon have a kind of desire? Dragon Lady was at a loss, but she didn't dare to enter the residence rashly. I should wait for him to come out before asking, Dragon Lady thought. She had the bloodline of the water dragon. At the same time, her serene blue flood dragon also had the rare ability to transform and evolve. But the transformation of the serene blue flood dragon had been stuck at a bottleneck. If this was an opportunity. Dragon Lady vaguely felt that Yiguchen seemed to be bringing about a great change to her. At the same time, 100 miles away from Black Rock City, a group of barbarian tribe troops, more than 500 of them, were all totem warriors in the Divine Soul realm. They were like a bloody flood, marching towards Black Rock City. Ha, this time I am in the lead. Both Xue Wuchang and Xue Cicada are behind me. Dragon Lady and the one who killed Xue Ling are my prey. At the front of the army, there was a muscular man in blood-red armor with a bloodthirsty smile on his face. He was also a holy son of the blood barbarian tribe. His name was Xue Zhan. Although he was not as strong as Xue Wuchang, he was stronger than holy son Xue Ling. I thought Dragon Lady would run away, but I didn't expect her to be with the one who killed Xue Ling. She even stayed there, waiting for me to kill her. Xue Zhan felt that he had found a great advantage. If he was in his best condition, he would not dare to attack Dragon Lady. But Xue Zhan knew that Dragon Lady was seriously injured and could not fight at all. Just as Xue Zhan and the others were rushing towards Black Rock City. The governor of Black Rock City naturally received the news. He had sent out many scouts before, and now he received the news that the blood barbarian tribe troops were attacking. What should we do? The governor of Black Rock City looked worried. Their small city would not be guarded by a big shot. Although the governor of Black Rock City was an expert in the 9th transformation of the Divine Soul realm, he knew that he would die if he faced any holy son of the barbarian tribe. Sir, you forgot that the sword grandmaster is still in the city, an aide said. Yes, how could I forget that? But will he help us for free? In the eyes of the governor of Black Rock City, the geniuses of the seven forces stood at the top. Would they care about the lives of these people? We can only rely on him now. The aide sighed. Then someone went to Yiguchin's residence to inform him. Yiguchin was still cultivating, but Dragon Lady was outside. Before Yiguchin started cultivating, he said that if the barbarian tribe came, there was no need to be afraid, Dragon Lady replied. The messenger nodded slightly and left. Dragon Lady sighed when she saw this. As expected, the blood barbarian tribe had chased after them. Dragon Lady had thought of leaving directly. But first of all, she did not know what Yiguchin's attitude towards her was. Second of all, Dragon Lady wanted to know what the aura that Yiguchin released to suppress the serene blue dragon was. Therefore, Dragon Lady did not choose to leave. After that, the messenger told the governor of Black Rock City about the situation. The governor of Black Rock City was half happy and half worried. He was happy that Yiguchin had agreed to help, but worried that Yiguchin could defeat the holy son of the blood barbarian tribe. Before they really fought, the governor of Black Rock City could not be sure. After about an hour, the 500 totem warriors led by Bloody War had arrived outside the Black Rock City. At this moment, Black Rock City was in a state of panic. In the entire Black Rock City, there were only a little over 1,000 soldiers. But the barbarian tribe's totem warriors were famous for their ferocity. One totem warrior was enough to deal with 3 ordinary soldiers. Therefore, Black Rock City did not have an advantage. Blood barbarian tribe, we have minded our own business. Do you really have to attack? The governor of Black Rock City stood on the city wall and said loudly. Ha, boring. Brothers, slaughter the city. Bloody Battle had no intention of negotiating. He chose to attack directly. The blood barbarian tribe was cruel and violent. There was no room for negotiation. Moreover, Bloody Battle had a more important goal. He directly used his supreme totem, the demonic blood python. With one attack, he broke the city gate. Instantly, a great battle broke out. Blades collided and blood flowed. Yiguchin finally finished absorbing the power of the mystic water jade and opened his eyes. Chapter 446. In Yiguchen's eyes, there seemed to be dark flowing water flowing in them. In the surrounding space, there was a faint water vapor. He looked at the black aqua jade in his hand. It was originally crystal clear and full of spirituality, but now it was grayish-white. Obviously, the power had been absorbed by Yiguchin. In his dantian, on the 5-colored golden core, the dark soaring serpent totem was faintly glowing with cold light. Different from the green dragon and vermilion bird totem, the soaring serpent totem had the cold water element. It's a pity that a piece of mysterious water jade can only activate the soaring serpent totem. I can't display its mysteries for the time being. However, I have some understanding of the water concept. Yiguchin thought in his heart. If this understanding was deeper, and with the totem completely awakened, it would not be difficult to understand the sword essence. After thinking about it, Yiguchin pushed open the door and walked out. Outside, the Dragon Lady was sitting on the ground. After swallowing the healing elixir, the Dragon Lady's injuries had recovered a little. Although she had not fully recovered, she could still protect herself. At this moment, seeing Yiguchin come out, her beautiful blue eyes released a strange light as she stared at Yiguchin. What's wrong? Yiguchin asked. What are you cultivating? That kind of aura can suppress my supreme totem. The Dragon Lady could not hold back her curiosity. Moreover, she could vaguely feel that Yiguchin's secret would be helpful to her blue serene serpent's transformation. Do I need to tell you? Yiguchin's face was calm. He saved the Dragon Lady, but it did not mean that he had to be honest with her. Moreover, this was Yiguchin's own secret. How could he casually reveal it? Yiguchen could not trust the dragon lady now. If the barbarian tribe knew that Yiguchen had 5 ancestral totems, then Yiguchen would definitely be hunted down endlessly. The dragon lady seemed to feel that her words were a little abrupt. She could not help but say apologetically, "Sorry, I was rude." Yiguchen nodded slightly. However, he also understood that the soaring snake totem, as a water progenitor totem, could suppress the power of a supreme totem. It seemed that Yiguchen would gain a great advantage in dealing with the barbarian race in the future. But now, Yiguchen looked into the distance. Black smoke billowed, and the sound of weapons clashing could be heard. "You stay here," Yiguchen said casually. Then, he left in a flash. The barbarian totem warriors and the city guards were fighting in a chaotic battle near the city gate. The Black Rock city governor was also among them. With his 9 transformations of the godly soul, he was still able to hold his own. However, this was under the condition that the saints were not participating in the battle. "You must be the Black Rock city lord." "That's fine too. I'll kill you first before looking for those 2. Shuizhan held a serpent prism halberd in his hand. His body was covered in blood armor and he was extremely burly. He swept across the surroundings and charged directly at the Black Rock city governor. Boom! As expected, the Black Rock city governor was sent flying and spat out a mouthful of blood. "Governor!" The eyes of the surrounding soldiers turned red. The invincible governor in their hearts had been defeated by the barbarian saint in one move. "You can't even withstand a single blow." Shuizhan stood up and charged forward, wanting to end the Black Rock city governor's life with one blow. At this moment, a heavy sword shadow whizzed over from afar, accompanied by a sharp sound of wind breaking. "Who is it?" Shuizhan waved his serpent prism halberd in an attempt to block the sword shadow. However, the sword shadow was the Xianming heavy sword. In an instant, Shuizhan felt an extremely heavy force coming from the serpent prism halberd. It was as if Mount Tai was crashing down on him. With a puff, Shuizhan retreated dozens of steps and groaned in his chest. This time, everyone around, including the blood barbarian totem warriors, was stunned. Shuizhan had just sent the Black Rock city governor flying with one blow. In the blink of an eye, he was sent flying. "Who is it?" Shuizhan's face was filled with shame and anger. He looked around coldly with his blood-red eyes. The Xianming heavy sword flew back and fell into Yiguchen's hands. "Master Yiguchen!" The governor of Black Rock City, as well as the soldiers, were all excited. The Black Rock City governor, in particular, had been worried. He thought that although Yiguchen was a genius, it would not be easy for him to defeat the barbarian saint. However, now, Yiguchen had attacked and sent the blood barbarian saint flying with one blow. This level of strength had far exceeded his expectations. "What, Yiguchen, could it be?" Shuizhan's face changed slightly. At the same time, his secret technique also told him. It was the young man in front of him who had killed Shuiling. "Damn it, the sword master is not dead." Shuizhan's face darkened slightly. Yiguchen did not waste any time. He directly attacked. The Xianming heavy sword resonated with the void, erupting with an extremely terrifying shock wave. This shock wave even exceeded the limit of the shock wave produced by the void sword technique. It was the Great Void Sword Wave. Although it was only 30% of its power, the power of the Great Void Sword Wave was stronger than the void sword technique. The transparent sword ripples spread in all directions. What was strange was that the master of Black Rock City and the soldiers were not affected at all. Instead, it was the totem warriors who were sent flying in all directions as if they were swept away. The Saint Shuizhan was also under great pressure. He could only resist with all his might. Yiguchen's strength was far beyond his expectations. Totem Spirit Manifestation. Shuizhan could not hold on any longer and directly used his last resort. A blood-red python scuttled out of his body with a monstrous blood-evil aura. However, Yiguchen's eyes were still indifferent. Shuizhan was slightly stronger than Shuiling, but only by a little. Yiguchen did not intend to fight for a long time. He directly used the fifth move of the god-slaying sword technique, Yama. A blood-red Yama phantom soared into the sky. Then, in front of everyone's shocked eyes, the blood-red figure slashed out with a blood-red sword and directly beheaded the demonic blood python totem. Shui Zhan's aura also plummeted. His face was pale and he spat out a mouthful of blood. If their totems were damaged, they would also suffer a backlash. It's over. Yiguchen stepped on Shui Zhan's chest. It was as if Mount Tai was pressing down on him. Shui Zhan spat out a mouthful of blood and almost all his bones were broken. Yiguchen slowly walked to Shui Zhan and took the saint token. This was the proof of counting merits. I only got the first token now. Yiguchen shook his head slightly, as if he was not satisfied with his progress. At this moment, there was dead silence. The Black Rock City governor and the others' expressions were extremely interesting. They had thought that they would see a fierce battle, but in the end, the Saint of the Blood Barbarian tribe was overpowered and did not have a chance to fight back. More importantly, Yiguchen did not even use the strange fire and strange thunder to restrain the Blood Barbarian tribe. Yiguchen turned and left without saying a word. The ground was littered with totem warriors and the barbarian saint's corpse. Is this the true strength of the sword sect? The Black Rock City governor was amazed. Yiguchen returned to his remote courtyard. The dragon lady was still recuperating. Looking at Yiguchen, who was clean and did not show any signs of fighting, the dragon lady asked in confusion, "Why are you back so soon? Didn't you fight? If more barbarians come, let me know." Yiguchen did not say much and went straight into his residence. What happened? The dragon lady was puzzled. That was the saint of the Blood Barbarian tribe. Even if she was at her peak, she would have to go through a lot of trouble. However, she did not see any signs of fighting on Yiguchen. It was as if he had just gone out for a walk. The dragon lady was puzzled and went out to ask around. When she learned that Yiguchen had killed a saint in 3 moves, she was shocked. The dragon lady's beautiful face, which was like an ice sculpture, also showed an extremely interesting expression. Chapter 447. Yiguchen was indeed famous in the barbarian race. However, that was all there was to it. Most of the holy sons and holy daughters of the barbarian race didn't believe in the rumors of how he could kill 100 people with a single sword strike. Even Dragoness had thought so before. After all, in the barbarian tribe, even the double champion and the triple champion were not as good as Yiguchen. Most of the barbarian tribe geniuses thought that Yiguchen's reputation was exaggerated. But now, after knowing that Yiguchen had killed a holy son in 3 moves, the dragon lady was shocked beyond words. In addition, Yiguchen's aura suppressed the blue serpent in his residence. This made Dragoness even more interested in Yiguchen. In his residence, Yiguchen was meditating with his eyes closed. At the same time, he was thinking about his future plans. He had to go to the barbarian race's 5 elemental land. There was only one reason before, and that was to enter the 5 elemental temple to find the sacred medicine to cure Su Jianshi. Now, with Yiguchen's need for the 5 elemental sacred item, he had to enter the 5 elemental land. I have to find an opportunity to infiltrate the barbarian race. Yiguchen's eyes flickered. Dragoness seemed to be a good breakthrough point. But now, Yiguchen didn't fully trust Dragoness, so he had to postpone his plan for now. However, Yiguchen wouldn't delay for too long because he knew Su Jianshi couldn't wait. Another day passed, and another blood barbarian holy son came to kill him. Their strength was on par with Shui Zhan, but Yiguchen dealt with him easily. The Black Rock City Lord and the others were overjoyed. They were about to worship Yiguchen as a god. Dragoness, on the other hand, looked at him with a slightly strange expression. Yiguchen asked, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Dragoness said, "Why do I feel like you can compete with the Triple Crown champions of the barbarian race?" Yiguchen's eyes narrowed slightly. After some explanation from the dragon lady, Yiguchen had a general understanding of the situation of the barbarian race. Those who possessed 2 or even 3 supreme totems were known as the Double Crown King or the Triple Crown King. His strength and status were comparable to the top geniuses of the 7 major forces. Dragon Lady's analogy was a form of admiration and recognition of Yiguchen's strength. Then why didn't you say quadruple champion? Yiguchen asked calmly. From the dragoness, he learned that an unparalleled saint was born from the barbarian race. He had 4 supreme totems, and they were all of different attributes. He was called the King of the 4 Crowns. You're strong indeed. You can even compete with the 3 Crown Kings. However, the 4 Crown Kings are impossible. He's not only extremely strong, but he also came from the 5 Elements Temple. He has an extraordinary status. Some people even say that he's going to become the 5 Crown Kings in the future, said Long Nu. Although she valued Yiguchen's strength, she didn't think that he could compete with the King of the 4 Crowns. Oh. Yiguchen was surprised. Came from the 5 Elements Temple. Yiguchen felt that he would definitely have conflicts with the King of the 4 Crowns in the future. However, Yiguchen had another question. The 5-colored golden core in his body had 5 ancestral totems. If that was the case, wouldn't he also be called the King of the 5 Crowns? Of course, Yiguchen wouldn't tell Long Nu about this, because this news couldn't be leaked now. If it was leaked, Yiguchen had no doubt that the barbarian race's mighty figures would seize the 5-colored golden core in his body. Temporarily suppressing his curiosity, Yiguchen didn't say anything more. 2 days later, Yiguchen killed another saint of the blood barbarian race. Now there were a total of 3 people. But this move shocked the blood barbarian race. In the Heaven Blood Demon Castle, the high priest of the blood barbarian race looked at the 3 cracked blood-colored jade tokens on the bloodstone platform with an extremely gloomy expression. The blood barbarian race was not a top force in the barbarian race. There were only 10 saints and saintesses in the race. Now, including Xueling, the blood barbarian race had lost 4 saints. Only 6 were left. Who is the person who killed the 4 saints of the blood barbarian race? The high priest's tone was gloomy. High priest, do you want us to help? An elder came forward from behind. The person who killed the 4 saints must have an extraordinary identity. If you help and the news leaks out, the Heaven Blood Demon Castle will soon be besieged by the divine dwelling stage experts of the 7 forces, the high priest said coldly. Soldiers against soldiers, generals against generals. This was the tacit understanding between the 7 forces and the barbarian race. If one side were to break through first, the situation would definitely take an unexpected turn. The blood barbarian race was not at its peak among the barbarian race and couldn't bear such a change. Then what should we do? The elder asked worriedly. Tell Shui Wuchang and the others not to act alone. Gather together and then attack. If they can't deal with this person together, then they are not worthy of being saints, the high priest said coldly. As the order was issued, Shui Wuchang, Shui Chan and the other saints of the blood barbarian race received the news. Is this person really so powerful, or has the dragon girl recovered from her injuries? Shui Chan, who was heading toward Black Rock City, thought to herself. She didn't believe that the saints were all killed one-on-one. In addition, Yiguchen and the dragon girl were together, which made Shui Chan mistakenly think that the dragon girl might have recovered from her injuries and joined forces to kill the saints. But Shui Chan was still a little vigilant. She decided to meet up with the strongest saint in the race, Shui Wuchang. In addition to the 2 of them, there were 4 other saints of the blood barbarian race. 3 of them also chose to wait for Shui Wuchang's arrival. Only the blood sky saint was still arrogant and conceited. He felt that he could deal with Yiguchen alone. Therefore, he didn't wait for others and came directly to Black Rock City. Yiguchen attacked and fought with him. But it had to be said that the blood sky saint was stronger than the previous saints. Yiguchen had to use the heavenly sun Xianming fire to completely restrain the blood sky saint and then kill him. But just as he was killing the blood sky saint, Yiguchen suddenly felt that there seemed to be someone lurking in the dark, watching him. Who is it? Yi Guchen's spiritual power swept out. His spiritual power was far stronger than ordinary experts of the same level, so his perception was naturally more sensitive. Not far away, a plain figure suddenly flew out. Yi Guchen swept out his sword, and the blood-red blade tore through the air. Seeing this, the figure sped up and was about to leave, but his thigh was grazed, and blood spurted out. Just as Yi Guchen was about to chase after him, the figure threw a disposable hidden weapon with a backhand. Accompanied by bursting flames, countless silver needles that were dipped in poison stabbed toward Yi Guchen. Yi Guchen blocked the attack with his Xianming heavy sword. When he looked again after blocking the attack, the figure was gone. Who is it? Yi Guchen frowned. Chapter 448. The first thing that came to his mind was the barbarian race. But that idea was immediately rejected. That figure, regardless of body shape or appearance, was not from the barbarian race. Moreover, given the current situation of the barbarian race, there was no need to send someone to monitor him. Then it must be someone from the 7 major forces. But Yi Guchen shook his head. Among the 7 major forces, there were too many people who wanted to deal with him. He could not even count them with one hand. But the exchange meeting has just ended. With Senior Feng Manla's influence, those big shots should not have any ideas about me for the time being. In that case, it must be the younger generation. Now, the only one who needs to monitor my situation is the Little War Emperor, because he has a bet with me. However, although the Little War Emperor is quite shrewd, he is more arrogant. He looks down on everyone, so he shouldn't have thought of monitoring my situation. If that's the case, then it's possible that, a cold light flashed in Yi Guchen's eyes. Zhou Tong. Although Yi Guchen was not completely sure, he made a prediction. In that case, the reason why LV Qinghan treated me like that may be because of Zhou Tong's instigation. Yi Guchen thought to himself. He and Zhou Tong did not have any big grudges before, and Zhou Tong probably did not care about Ji Yan. Just because he wants to get the Zither Fairy, he wants to attack me. Zhou Tong, if it is really you, then you have to think carefully. Yi Guchen's eyes flashed. The opponent on the surface was not scary. The scariest thing was the poisonous snake in the dark. Who knows when it would choose to bite someone? And if Zhou Tong did not know when to stop, Yi Guchen would definitely make him pay the price. However, Zhou Tong probably didn't know that Yi Guchen, who he thought only knew how to use martial arts, had directly deduced that he was the one who arranged everything behind the scenes. If Zhou Tong knew, he would definitely be surprised. But Yi Guchen's main concern now was to deal with the barbarian race, so he did not spend any effort to chase that figure. Yi Guchen was still in Black Rock City, and now he had 5 chosen tokens in his hands. This was an extremely shocking number. If the members of the 7 great powers of Northern Liang City were to find out about this, it would surely cause an uproar. However, Yi Guchen was still not satisfied. When he left Northern Liang City, the young war emperor had already killed 3 saint princes. Now, he must have killed even more. The 5 saints were not safe. The holy sons and holy daughters of the blood barbarian tribe should be joining forces, Yi Guchen guessed. If they still came one by one to throw away their lives, that would be too stupid. However, the situation was just as Yi Guchen had expected. Hundreds of miles away from Black Rock City, the mighty army of the blood barbarian tribe had gathered together. There were nearly 2,000 of them in total. In front of these 2,000 totem warriors, there were 5 silhouettes standing in awe. Xue Tian is also dead, a blood barbarian holy son said solemnly. Has the dragon lady of the water clan completely recovered her strength? The person who spoke was a seductive woman with an extremely hot figure. She was the blood cicada saintess. In fact, not only Xue Chan, but the other saints also thought so. The deaths of the saints must have something to do with the dragon lady of the water clan. When the dragon lady was in her prime, even the strongest saint of the blood barbarian tribe, Xue Wuchang, was afraid of her. At this moment, Xue Chan and the others looked at Xue Wuchang in unison. Xue Wuchang was riding a huge crimson demonic wolf. He had a scar on his face and had a cold temperament. He was the strongest saint of the blood barbarian tribe. His strength was even comparable to some of the double champion. Even among the barbarian tribe, he was quite famous. It could be the dragon lady, Xue Wuchang said. Other than that, there was no other explanation. In their eyes, no matter how strong the person who killed Xue Ling was, it was impossible for him to kill 5 saints of the blood barbarian tribe consecutively. The only possibility was that the dragon lady had recovered from her injuries and attacked. If that's the case, it's a little troublesome, Xue Chan said. When she was chasing the dragon lady, she was the most ruthless. She was also the one who planted the blood barbarian tribe's kill talisman in the dragon lady's body. It could be said that there was a deep hatred between them. If she did not get rid of the dragon lady and let her return to the water tribe, Xue Chan could not imagine what would happen to her in the future. As for Kue Shui Yinji, she definitely wouldn't expose her scheme. Therefore, Xue Chan's only goal now was to kill the dragon lady. Thinking of this, Xue Chan's eyes were filled with extreme killing intent. Don't worry. Whether it's the dragon lady or that person, they will die this time. Xue Wuchang waved his hand. The 5 saints and saintesses of the blood barbarian tribe, together with nearly 2,000 totem warriors, rushed toward Black Rock City like a flood of blood. In Black Rock City, the soldiers stationed in the city, including the Black Rock City governor, were extremely relaxed and at ease. In their opinion, as long as Yi Guqin was in the city, the saints were nothing to be afraid of. In a remote courtyard in Black Rock City, Yi Guqin was not in seclusion in his residence. Instead, he was in the courtyard, holding the Xianming heavy sword and comprehending the power of the Great Void Sword Wave. Rustle. In the courtyard, maple leaves fell from a maple tree and filled the sky. Yi Guqin calmed his thoughts and waved the Xianming heavy sword gently. Only a faint wave spread out. Not far away, the dragon lady was still adjusting her breath. Her injuries had also recovered a little. Although she was not at her peak, she was no longer weak. At this moment, her beautiful blue eyes were curiously looking at Yi Guqin, who was practicing his sword. In her eyes, Yi Guqin was gently waving his sword. He did not even emit much sword chi. The wave of this sword move is so weak. What's the use of it? The dragon lady was confused. She felt that Yi Guqin was not so much practicing the sword as playing. Yi Guqin did not mind. When he practiced the sword, he was very focused and would not be disturbed by the outside world. After waving his sword, Yi Guqin put away the Xianming heavy sword. The dragon lady's figure swayed as she walked over. Looking at Yi Guqin, she wanted to ask why Yi Guqin's sword move was so weak. She saw the maple leaves in the sky turn into dust in an instant. The dragon lady's eyes narrowed and she covered her mouth with her hand. What's the matter? Yi Guqin said lightly. The dragon lady was speechless. The prodigy of the sword sect in front of her seemed to have refreshed her understanding of him again and again. However, the dragon lady's curiosity was increasing day by day. Nothing, but Xue Chan and the others may come here. Can you let me fight with Xue Chan first? The dragon lady's tone was a little cold. Even a woman like her, who was not competitive, showed a hint of hatred when she said this. It was obvious that she really hated Xue Chan. Did she leave the blood barbarian tribe's kill talisman in your body? Yi Guqin asked. The dragon girl nodded slightly. If it were not for this, she would not have fallen into such a sorry state. In the end, if it were not for Yi Guqin's help, she, the dragon girl, might have really died. Yes, but your injuries have not healed yet, Yi Guqin said casually. Don't I still have you? The dragon lady's tone had a rare hint of ridicule. Okay. Yi Guqin nodded. Chapter 449. In fact, they did not have to wait for long before the blood barbarians arrived. When the Black Rock City governor received the report of 5 holy sons from the Blood Barbarian tribe, the Black Rock City governor's hand that was holding the teacup trembled. The teacup fell to the ground. "What did you say?" "5 saints." The Black Rock City governor trembled and his face turned pale. Yiguchin's previous performance had made the Black Rock City governor feel at ease. He felt that Black Rock City was impregnable. As long as he was not targeted by the barbarians above the life and death threshold, there would be nothing to worry about. But now, the scouts had reported that there were 5 saints. Such a situation had never happened before. The holy son of the barbarian tribe was just like the geniuses of the 7 forces. He was proud and arrogant. Under normal circumstances, he would never attack together. "What should I do?" The Black Rock City governor was a little dazed and lost his mind. He had confidence in Yiguchin. But this time, it wasn't just 1 or 2 holy sons, but 5 of them. "Go find someone and inform Sword Sect Yi." The Black Rock City governor waved his hand. In a remote courtyard in Black Rock City, the people from the governor's mansion came to report the situation. Yiguchin nodded calmly and said to Dragon Lady, "It seems that you can attack now." The dragon girl's blue crystal eyes looked at Yiguchin strangely. "There are 5 saints. Aren't you afraid at all?" "The strongest saint of the Blood Barbarian tribe, Shui Wuchang, should be among them," Dragon Lady said. Hearing this, Yiguchin shook his head slightly. He did not know what fear was. It was not the first time that he had been besieged by a group of saints, so he was not afraid at all. "If you want to take revenge, then attack first," Yiguchin said. But he felt that it would be difficult for Dragon Lady to deal with Blood Cicada Saintess in her current condition. Not long after, the Blood Barbarian army led by Shui Wuchang and the other saints arrived outside Black Rock City. The Black Rock City governor climbed up the city wall and glanced around. When he saw Shui Wuchang in the center, his heart tightened. Riding a blood-red demonic wolf, could that person be Shui Wuchang? Black Rock City's governor was a little surprised. Shui Wuchang was quite famous among the barbarian race's holy sons. "You have 2 choices. First, hand over the person who killed my clan's holy son and the Dragon Lady. If you do that, I can promise to give you a quick death. Second, I'll personally charge in, kill those 2, and throw you all into the demonic blood pool." From beginning to end, Shui Wuchang had been very casual. His tone was cold, as if he was the god of death. The master of Black Rock City did not communicate with the Blood Barbarians. With the cruel and violent character of the Blood Barbarians, there was no possibility of reconciliation. At this time, Yiguchin and Dragoness also came to the city gate. Lord Sword Sect. Upon seeing Yiguchin, the Black Rock City governor cupped his hands and bowed. What surprised him was that the barbarian tribe woman with long blue hair had also come along. Yiguchin nodded slightly. He and Dragoness pushed open the city gates and walked out. The Black Rock City governor was dumbfounded. Did they not see the 5 holy sons and holy daughters, as well as the 2,000 totem warriors outside? However, even if he was confused, the Black Rock City governor would not say it out loud. He was not qualified to interfere with Yiguchin's decision. On the other side, Shui Wuchang, Shui Chan, and the others were also surprised to see Yiguchin and Dragoness. At this moment, Dragoness walked in front while Yiguchin followed casually with his arms crossed in front of him. It looked as if Dragoness was the main concern and Yiguchin was the secondary concern. Of course, this was because Dragoness had decided to deal with Shui Chan personally. Yiguchin had no objection to this and would just watch from the sidelines. "Dragoness of the Water Tribe, it really is you." Shui Chan stared coldly at Dragoness with undisguised killing intent. Shui Wuchang and the others also looked at Dragoness. After all, Dragoness of the Water Tribe was quite famous among the barbarian tribe. She had the water dragon bloodline and had awakened the serene water blue serpent totem that could evolve. Her strength was extraordinary. They predicted that the deaths of the holy sons of the Blood Barbarian tribe must have something to do with Dragoness. As for the other person, Shui Wuchang and the others slowly looked at Yi Guqin. You are the one who killed Xueling. Shui Wuchang's eyes were cold and bloodthirsty. He was arrogant as if he was sure that Yi Guqin would die in the end. Yi Guqin did not reply. Why waste time talking to someone who was going to die? Ha! It seems that you don't know the pain of the demonic blood pool. Now, I have decided not to kill you so quickly. Shui Wuchang was not too angry. This was because he had seen many of the geniuses of the 7 superpowers who were proud and arrogant. However, when they were caught and thrown into the demonic blood pool, they screamed and begged like pigs being slaughtered. Therefore, Shui Wuchang did not care. He wanted to throw Yi Guqin into the demonic blood pool with his own hands. Shui Chan shook her head and said, Dragoness, they all say that you are gentle and don't like to kill. However, you killed the 4 holy sons of the blood barbarian tribe. I am impressed. Dragoness frowned. The blood barbarian tribe seemed to have misunderstood something. She turned to look at Yi Guqin and found that Yi Guqin had no intention of refuting. He just stood there calmly. You may have misunderstood. I didn't kill the 4 holy sons, Dragoness said. Hee, Dragon Lady, it has already come to this point. Is there still a need to cover it up? Could it be that you are saying that the person behind you killed the 4 saints? Shui Chan giggled. Clearly, she thought that Dragon Lady was trying to cover it up. Dragoness, do you think you can escape by denying it? Only you have the strength to kill the 4 holy sons of the blood barbarian tribe, Shui Wuchang said coldly. Dragoness' face froze. Was he blaming Yi Guqin for killing the holy sons on her? Dragoness turned to look at Yi Guqin with a tinge of innocence and resentment. Was it really okay to let a woman take the blame? However, Yi Guqin still had no intention of refuting. He just stood there like a bystander. Dragoness blinked her eyes. Did he have to be so low-key? Dragoness, you have already killed them. No matter if it is us or Inji, we will not let you go. So, how do you want to die? Shui Wuchang said coldly. I want to fight with Shui Chan first. Dragoness' face turned cold and her eyes were cold. Oh, you want to take revenge on me? Shui Chan teased. Dragoness had killed the holy sons consecutively, so she was definitely not weak. However, with Shui Wuchang and the others around, Shui Chan did not think that Dragoness could kill her in public. Moreover, Dragoness was Inji's target. If Shui Chan killed Dragoness, she would get the 3 water attribute divine items from Inji. Therefore, Shui Chan agreed. Shui Wuchang and the others did not object. The end result would be the same anyway. It was just an interlude. Chapter 450. Blood Cicada and Dragon Lady, the 2 barbarian saintesses, stood facing each other. The atmosphere was cold. Under normal circumstances, if the 2 were to fight, no one would think that Blood Cicada would win. The Blood Barbarian tribe was only a second-tier force among the Barbarian tribe. Blood Cicada's strength was not at the top among the Blood Barbarian saintesses. The water tribe that Dragon Lady belonged to was one of the 5 elements Barbarian tribes. Dragon Lady, who had the Water Dragon bloodline, was the top figure among the younger generation of the Water tribe. It could be said that Dragon Lady's strength would crush Blood Cicada under normal circumstances. But it was different now. Dragon Lady's strength had not fully recovered. It was hard to say who would win against Blood Cicada. Without any hesitation, the 2 saintesses fought. Shui Wuchang and the others watched coldly. To them, this was a show with a predetermined ending. They were just having fun now. Yi Guqin was also paying attention. He wanted to see how powerful this saintess from the Water tribe was. Dragon Lady was in a blue dress. Her figure was graceful and delicate, and her body was filled with water totem power. Around her, there was even a misty mist, which set off the Earth Dragon Lady's outstanding charm, lovely and moving. Blood Cicada's eyes darkened when she saw this. Dragon Lady's temperament was 1 in 1,000,000. Even she could not help but feel a little ashamed. But the more it was so, the more Blood Cicada wanted to kill Dragon Lady. Dragon Lady's aura was surging. It seemed to be extraordinary, but Yiguchin could feel that her aura was a little unstable. It was obvious that her injuries had not healed. Stormy Wave Palm. In Dragon Lady's body, the water blue serpent totem released light. The surging water totem power flowed along her meridians to her palm. Dragon Lady's snow-white hand pushed out. It was like a huge wave. The water totem power turned into a huge wave and bombarded Blood Cicada. Blood Cicada's expression changed slightly. With just one move, Blood Cicada knew that this water tribe Dragon Lady lived up to her reputation. Although the power of Dragon Lady's moves had decreased compared to when she was at her peak, she still forced Blood Cicada to use all her potential. The two saintesses fought together. Their totem power surged, and airwaves overflowed. On the city wall not far away, the Black Rock City Lord was a little surprised. He did not expect that the captured barbarian woman was a saintess. However, from the looks of it, it seemed that they had a grudge against the Blood Barbarians. Now, the Black Rock City Lord finally understood why Yiguchin wanted to save the Dragon Lady. He could not help but admire Yiguchin even more. In less than 100 breaths of time, the two of them had exchanged almost 100 moves. Even Yiguchin had to admit that Dragoness was strong. If it wasn't for the fact that she had yet to recover from her injuries, with the strength of the Blood Cicada, it was impossible for it to delay her for so long. But even if Dragon Lady's condition was not good, she still had the advantage in the current situation. Blood Cicada was at a disadvantage. Damn it! Shui Chan's jade-like face trembled in anger. Regardless of appearance, temperament, strength, or talent, she was completely crushed by Dragon Lady. She was jealous to begin with, and at this moment, she found it even harder to suppress her jealousy. It's over. Dragon Lady didn't want to fight for too long. The longer it dragged on, the worse the situation would be for her. Moreover, Dragon Lady could feel that her injuries were worsening. So, she decided to end this quickly. Totem Spirit Manifestation. Dragon Lady shouted. The totem power on the surface of her body surged, and a blue water dragon burst out from her body. This water dragon was somewhat illusory. There were 2 bulges on its head. Apparently, it had not completed its transformation. But even so, the serene water dragon was one of the top supreme totems. Its strength was extraordinary. Jade Crystal Blood Snake. Blood Cicada also refined her Blood Barbarian tribe's supreme totem, the Jade Crystal Blood Snake. A totem spirit manifestation with green eyes and a blood-red body surged out from Blood Cicada's body. The snake and the water dragon fought together. But everyone could see that the Jade Crystal Blood Snake was at a disadvantage. It was no match for the serene water dragon. Hiss! The serene water dragon bit the Jade Crystal Blood Snake, and the Jade Crystal Blood Snake let out a painful hiss. Blood Cicada was also injured. She spat out a mouthful of blood. But she was unwilling to give up. She rushed forward again and fought with Dragon Lady. Puff! Dragon Lady struck out with her palm and pushed Blood Cicada back, causing her to spit out blood. At this moment, Blood Impermanence's eyes flashed. He flipped his wrist, and a dark arrow silently flew out. Dragon Lady immediately sensed it. She retreated and blasted out a move to shatter the arrow radiance. At the same time, Blood Cicada seized the opportunity and attacked. She waved one hand, and a blood-red poisonous fog spread out. Dragon Lady could not dodge in time and inhaled some of it. In an instant, Dragon Lady felt her limbs go soft and numb. Her totem power was suppressed to the extreme. The serene water dragon's spirit dissipated in the void. If Dragon Lady was in her best condition, she could easily suppress the poison. But now, she was injured and could not resist it. Despicable. Dragon Lady gritted her teeth. Haven't you heard that all is fair in war? Dragon Lady, you are still too stupid. Blood Cicada chuckled, extremely proud. How delightful was it to be able to kill a woman who was better than her in all aspects. It's over. Blood Cicada's eyes were cold. She turned her palm into a knife and slashed at Dragon Lady's jade neck. Dragon Lady's expression was grave. She was the Dragon Lady of the Water Tribe, but she had fallen into the hands of Blood Cicada. Sigh. I expected this. You are just wasting your time. Yiguchen's figure flashed and saved Dragon Lady from Blood Cicada's evil hands. It's not your turn yet. Are you in such a hurry to die? Seeing Yiguchen save Dragon Lady, Blood Cicada's eyes darkened. But she was not angry. They were going to die anyway. It did not matter if it was a moment earlier or later. They are really shameless. Dragon Lady's body went soft. Her bones went soft and her tendons went numb. She leaned on Yiguchen's body. Her body was originally delicate like water. At that moment, her body was so soft that it was as if she had no bones. In addition to her tender skin that was like a peeled egg, it gave off an extremely wonderful feeling. Yiguchen did not feel anything. He looked at the saints and saintesses indifferently. Dragon Lady's face was slightly red. As the saintess of the Water Tribe, she was as pure as ice. Since she was young, she had never been so close to a member of the opposite sex. Then let me do the rest. Yiguchen placed Dragon Lady on the ground with a calm expression. Dragon Lady nodded slightly. Although she wanted to kill Blood Cicada with her own hands, it was obviously impossible now. Why do I hear arrogance and confidence in your words? Or are you saying that you are stronger than Dragon Lady? Blood Cicada's eyes were filled with disdain. She hated Yiguchen's indifferent and arrogant look. It was equivalent to not putting the saints and saintesses in his eyes. The weaker one is, the more arrogant they are. Blood Impermanence shook his head slightly. He had seen many people with such an attitude. There was no lack of such people in the 7 major forces. Aren't you curious about why I am so confident? Then I will tell you. Yiguchen did not hesitate. He activated the soul-devouring secret technique and his cultivation soared to the level of Divine Soul 9 transformations. The eye of Azura opened. The scarlet-red light swallowed his black pupils. Using the wave-like subtle steps, Yiguchen grasped the air with one hand and a golden genuine chi sword condensed. He used the Yama sword and swept it towards Blood Cicada. At the same time, the heavenly sun Xianming fire rose from the blade. In his sea of consciousness, the astral soul wave spread out and bombarded Blood Cicada's mind. All of these actions were completed in an instant. Blood Cicada screamed as she felt a fatal danger. She unleashed all her strength and at the same time, took out a blood-red shield and retreated. However, the Yama sword and the heavenly sun Xianming fire cut the blood-red shield in half. The Eye of Azura and the Astral Soul Wave attacked Blood Cicada's Sea of Consciousness. Her body stiffened and she lost her mind for a moment. With a sweep of his sword, the beautiful head flew high into the air, accompanied by a spray of blood. Blood Cicada Saintess had fallen. Chapter 451. There was a dead silence between heaven and earth. No matter if it was saints like Shui Wuchang, the totem warriors, the Black Rock City governor, or the Dragon Girl. Everything seemed to have frozen. The atmosphere was like ice. One strike. It was just a single sword strike. A holy maiden had died. Her blood was as black as ink, splattering across the sky. That beautiful head was still filled with confusion, absent-mindedness, and disbelief. However, that expression would be fixed forever and could not be changed. The Dragon Girl covered her mouth in disbelief. Although she could have crushed Xue Chan in her prime, she could not have done it so cleanly. Although it was partly because Xue Chan underestimated the enemy, it was more because of Yi Gu Chen's own strength. The saints of the Blood Barbarian tribe suddenly changed their expressions. A kind of horror emerged from their eyes. There was also some fear that they had never felt before. Xue Wuchang's face was also extremely gloomy. He said in a hoarse voice with extreme coldness, "It's you. It's always been you." Xue Wuchang could not suppress the anger in his heart. They had thought that the dragon girl was responsible for the deaths of the saints. But now, the situation was very clear. The dragon girl had not recovered from her injuries and could not kill the saints consecutively. But the black-robed young man in front of them had killed Xue Chan with one strike. His strength was far beyond Xue Wuchang's and the others' expectations. Thinking of this, Xue Wuchang and the others' expressions turned ugly. Their attention had been on the dragon girl and they did not care about Yi Guqin at all. If they had known that Yi Guqin had extraordinary strength, Xue Chan might have been more vigilant. He would not have been killed so easily. Do you still think that my confidence is based on falsehood? Yi Guqin dispersed the genuine qi sword in his hand and took out the Xianming heavy sword. Even in the face of Xue Wuchang and the other saints, he was still as calm as ever. Who are you? Xue Wuchang spat out word by word. He had seen many geniuses from the 7 major forces and had heard of most of them. However, he did not know anything about the young man in front of him. I'll tell you when you die. Yi Guqin held the Xianming heavy sword in his hand, and he didn't speak any further before charging forward. How arrogant! Xue Wuchang did not move. The other 3 holy sons of the blood barbarian tribe looked at each other with fierce eyes. Boom! The 3 saints joined forces to attack Yi Guqin. In the past, this was unimaginable because the pride of the barbarian race's holy son was not much weaker than the geniuses of the 7 major forces. In addition, the barbarian race worshipped strength. Under normal circumstances, they disdained to besiege others. But now, Yi Guqin's strength made these barbarian race holy sons feel a great sense of danger. In a situation where their lives could not be guaranteed, who still cared about pride? As for Xue Wuchang, he was the strongest holy son of the blood barbarian tribe. He didn't attack directly. He wanted to see how strong Yi Guqin was through the other holy sons. The 3 holy sons did not hold back at all. Dark blood ghost claw. Blood dissolving hand. Heavenly blood thread. The 3 holy sons used their most powerful moves. One of the holy sons used the power of the blood-colored totem to refine a thread. The heavenly blood thread was extremely tough. It wrapped around Yi Guqin's Xianming heavy sword in an attempt to restrain it. Then, the other 2 holy sons used the nether ghost claw and the blood-dissolving hand to grab Yi Guqin's head and heart. As soon as they attacked, it was obvious that these holy sons were extraordinary. At the same time, their methods were extremely ruthless. They wanted to kill Yi Guqin with one blow. But would it be so easy? Yi Guqin's genuine qi gushed out as he used the protection of Luo Tian. A guardian Vajra shadow appeared on the surface of Yi Guqin's body. Boom! The blood-dissolving hand bombarded the guardian Vajra shadow and shattered it. Yi Guqin used the eyes of Azura again and looked at the holy son who used the nether ghost claw. The holy son was affected by the Azura illusion and couldn't help but slow down a step. Yi Guqin took advantage of this moment. The heavenly sun Xianming fire rose from the Xianming heavy sword and burned the heavenly blood thread. Unusual fire and unusual thunder were originally the bane of the blood barbarian's totem power. Then, Yi Guqin swung his heavy sword and collided with the nether ghost claw. Crack! That holy sun only felt a tremendous force as powerful as Mount Tai crushing down on him inch by inch along his arm. The Xianming heavy sword was not known for its sharpness. It was known for its strength. With just one blow, the holy sun felt as if his arm was about to break. Yi Guqin used the great void sword wave again. Although it was only 30% of its power, it was comparable to the void sword technique of the transcendent state. Transparent sword ripples spread out in all directions, and the 3 chosens retreated at the same time. Their internal organs were shaken, and if it weren't for the power of totems protecting their bodies, their internal organs would have been shattered long ago. In fact, to judge a person's strength, one didn't need to pay attention for too long. A few blows were enough to make a conclusion. Shui Wuchang looked serious. Even he, the strongest chosen, felt a great deal of pressure. Who was this person? The three chosen who had been repelled looked at each other with determination in their eyes. Without any hesitation, they unleashed all of their totem power and revealed their totem spirits. 3 illusory totem spirits appeared on the surface of their bodies. A crimson wan bird, a toad full of blood lumps, and a blood silkworm. They were the supreme totems of the blood barbarian tribe. With the power of the totem spirits, the 3 holy sons besieged Yiguchen again. Be careful. The dragon girl bit her lip. In the face of such a besiegement, she wouldn't dare to let her guard down at all. Yiguchen used the god-slaying sword technique, blood slaughter, demon only, and yellow spring. The crimson sword aura broke through the air and swept in all directions. However, the 3 holy sons joined forces, and the crimson totem spirits seemed to be connected to each other. They formed a crimson array and pressed down on Yiguchen. Die. The 3 holy sons had cruel looks on their faces. They didn't believe that Yiguchen could survive under such a besiegement. Yiguchen's expression didn't change at all. He directly summoned the purple lightning nether thunder in his body. The dazzling purple lightning spread along his veins and spread to the Xianming heavy sword. The terrifying lightning spread out like a spider web, directly enveloping the 3 totem spirits. Hiss. Although the purple lightning nether thunder wasn't at the level of profound thunder, it was an unusual thunder after all. It just so happened to restrain the blood barbarian tribe's totem. The 3 totem spirits let out painful roars. Even the auras of the 3 saints plummeted. Unusual thunder of heaven and earth. The 3 holy sons were shocked. Previously, Yiguchen had summoned the unusual fire of heaven and earth. Now that he had summoned the unusual thunder again, the holy sons were shocked. Kill! Yiguchen did not pay attention to the shock of the holy sons. He swung his sword. The boundless heaven sword art, the boundless heaven sword art. The dense sword rays were like a net, trapping the 3 chosens within. Stop! Shui Wuchang's eyes were fierce. He blasted out with one hand, and a terrifying crimson light poured out. However, it was still too late. The bodies of the 3 holy sons, wrapped in endless sword aura, were directly shattered into countless pieces. Blood splattered everywhere like a rain of blood. In the rain of blood, Yiguchen pointed his heavy sword at the ground. His eyes were calm, and not a drop of blood stained his body. Chapter 452. Silence. The atmosphere outside Black Rock City was terrifyingly quiet. Everyone present stared blankly at the youth whose expression was incomparably calm amidst the rain of blood. Yiguchen, how strong is he? The dragon lady's face revealed a dazed expression. She was one of the top barbarian saints and saintesses. However, sensing Yiguchen's aura, Dragon Girl vaguely felt that even if she were at her peak, she would still be no match for him. As for Shui Wuchang, his expression was terrifyingly gloomy. He was the only saint and saintess of the blood barbarian tribe left. Shui Wuchang couldn't imagine how furious the elders in the Heaven Blood Demon Castle would be. It meant that almost all the young talents of the blood barbarian tribe had been killed by Yiguchen alone. Who are you? Shui Wuchang's voice was as cold as ice. He thought of a few people, including Xian Hao, the young war emperor, and Gu Zun, but he rejected them one by one. Regardless of whether it was his appearance or his image, it did not match the rumors. As for Yiguchen, not many barbarians knew that he was still alive because the news had just spread from northern Yang City. Shui Wuchang subconsciously ignored it. I told you that I would tell you when you were about to die, Yiguchen said indifferently. I, Shui Wuchang, am not someone trash like them can compare to. Shui Wuchang flipped his wrist and a blood-red wolf fang blade appeared in his hand. The blade was scarlet because he had killed too many people. Blood had soaked the blade. In my eyes, there is no difference. Yiguchen's expression was calm. Be careful. Xue Wuchang is different from the other saints. It is said that he has even competed with some double crown winners, Dragon Girl reminded him. Yi Guqin nodded. Xue Wuchang was so angry that he laughed. As the strongest saint of the blood barbarian tribe, he had never been ignored like this. The price for underestimating me will be your life. Xue Wuchang held the Wolf Fang blade and released his totem power, releasing an aura comparable to the Divine Soul 9 changes. He leaped into the air and slashed down viciously at Yi Guqin. The blood-red totem power flowed along the wolf teeth blade and turned into a sharp blade aura. It tore through the air and the void. Yi Guqin raised his Xianming heavy sword and the wolf teeth blade clashed together. The blood-red totem power clashed with his Zhenqi, creating a violent shockwave. Xue Wuchang's expression changed slightly. He could also feel the terrifying power coming from the Xianming heavy sword. It was as if it could destroy Mount Tai. Yi Guqin's perfect physical body allowed him to possess the strength of the dragon and elephant. In addition to the support of the Xianming heavy sword, Yi Guqin's every move was filled with the power of 1,000 caddies. However, Xue Wuchang lived up to his title as the strongest saint of the blood barbarian tribe. Although he was pushed back, he wasn't as flustered as the other saints. Only his bones cracked. Yi Guqin took advantage of the situation and the Xianming heavy sword resonated with the void. Countless transparent sword waves swept out, causing the spiritual space to boil and ripple in all directions. It was the void wave. When Xue Wuchang saw this, his totem power exploded and the wolf teeth blade in his hand glowed with a blood-red light. Wolf Fang blade. Xue Wuchang's blade aura cut through the void and slashed toward Yi Guqin. Yi Guqin used the Eye of Azura. The scarlet light engulfed his eyes as he looked at Xue Wuchang. To Yi Guqin's surprise, Xue Wuchang didn't seem to be affected. On second thought, Yi Guqin understood. Xue Wuchang was the saint of the blood barbarian tribe and had seen all kinds of bloody and cruel scenes. He was also extremely cold and wouldn't be affected by the Azura illusion. The wolf teeth blade slashed toward Yi Guqin's head, but Yi Guqin blocked it with his sword. The blade and the sword collided, causing sparks to fly. At the same time, the heavenly sun Xianming fire rose from the sword. Yi Guqin gripped the air with his other hand. Dazzling purple thunderbolts shot out and made a thunderous sound. When Xue Wuchang saw this, he retreated with a hint of fear in his eyes. The blood barbarians cultivated the blood Dao totem. The unusual fire and unusual thunder were very effective against the blood barbarians. Even Xue Wuchang couldn't figure out how the person in front of him could merge the unusual fire and unusual thunder into his body at the same time. After using the unusual fire and unusual thunder, Yi Guqin's attack clearly took the initiative. Xue Wuchang's defense was passive. However, the blood-colored totem power all over his body was still sizzling as it was being burned by the strange fire and lightning. No wonder you can kill the saint of the blood barbarian tribe. With the power of the unusual fire and unusual thunder, you can indeed do it. However, do you think I'm that kind of trash? Xue Wuchang's tone was cold as he stared at Yi Guqin. Then, he also refined his totem, the Blood Moon Demonic Wolf. Totem possession, demonic wolf armor. Xue Wuchang shouted in a low voice. A thick blood-red light spread out from the totem on his chest and condensed into a blood-red armor on the surface of his body. Its shape was as ferocious as a wolf's fang. However, what was more strange was that the demonic wolf armor exuded a trace of Coldine power. That's a mutated attribute? Dragon Lady exclaimed when she saw this scene. Logically speaking, Xue Wuchang's Blood Moon Demonic Wolf should belong to the Blood Dao totem. However, after using the totem possession technique, not only did it have the power of the Blood Dao totem, but it also had the power of the Coldine Dao totem. Oh, Dragon Lady, you're so insightful. In order to overcome the weakness of the Blood Dao totem, I endured the pain of being frozen all over and integrated the power of an ice divine item into the Blood Moon Demonic Wolf totem. Therefore, it's impossible for you to defeat me with unusual fire and unusual thunder. Xue Wuchang was extremely confident. After using the demonic wolf armor, the threat of the heavenly sun Xianming fire and purple lightning Hades thunder would be greatly reduced. As expected, in the following battle, the unusual fire and unusual thunder could no longer cause much damage to Xue Wuchang. Although they were still effective, they were obviously not as effective as before. Heart-gouging claw. Xue Wuchang held the wolf fang saber in one hand and used the totem possession technique with the other. An illusory ferocious wolf claw appeared along his arm and clawed at Yiguchen's chest. The sharp claw light tore through the air and made a shrill sound. Yiguchen used the 6 meridian sacred sword. In the blink of an eye, streaks of sword chi burst out and collided with the claw light. Oh no, this is bad. Dragon Lady's beautiful eyes were filled with worry. The unusual fire and unusual thunder were Yiguchen's best weapons against the blood barbarian tribe. However, now that Xue Wuchang had a mutated blood Dao totem, the threat of the unusual fire and unusual thunder was greatly reduced. Oh! Xue Wuchang, it's too early for you to be happy. The unusual fire and unusual thunder will always be your bane. If it's not strong enough, then add another one. Yiguchen smiled faintly in the face of the confident Xue Wuchang. An incomparably ferocious silver thunderbolt once again burst out from Yiguchen's body. The power of the thunderbolt shook the void and roared. It was even more violent than the purple lightning Hades thunder. This was the other type of unusual thunder that Yiguchen possessed, the extreme void dark thunder. When the extreme void dark thunder was used, Xue Wuchang's confidence seemed to collapse instantly. Chapter 453. Impossible. Xue Wuchang's face turned pale. He stared at Yiguchen as if he wanted to see through him. Not only did he have unique fire and unique thunder, but he also had dual unique thunders. Xue Wuchang could not imagine what kind of opportunity Yiguchen had. In his impression, even among the lightning clan that was proficient in using the power of lightning Dao, only the peerless saint, Lei Jiuyo, had the rare talent of having dual unusual thunders. However, Lei Jiuyo was able to have dual unique thunders because of his special lightning tribe bloodline. He was born with an affinity for lightning power. If it were an ordinary person, being able to contain one type of mutated lightning was the limit. Even a genius like Qin Aoshi only dared to control one type of ninth heaven dark thunder. Thus, Xue Wuchang was shocked by Yiguchen's dual unique thunders. Dragon Lady was also shocked speechless. Yiguchen's performance had refreshed her knowledge. I wonder what Lei Jiuyo will think when he finds out. Dragon Lady muttered to herself. Lei Jiuyo was the dual crown king. He was extremely arrogant and called himself the top lightning tribe cultivator among the younger generation. Even his younger brother, Lei Jiuming, who was extremely talented, was overshadowed by Lei Jiuyo. If the two of them were to clash in the future, it would be very dramatic. However, Dragon Lady still looked at the battle between Yiguchen and Xue Wuchang. After Yiguchen had taken out the extreme void dark thunder, Xue Wuchang was under a lot of pressure. Yiguchen's 2 types of unique thunders released endless thunderbolts. The purple lightning ghastly thunder was cold and eerie. The extreme void dark thunder broke the void and thunder rumbled. Although Xue Wuchang's totem power had been infused with an ice divine item and had power, the extreme void dark thunder was still a dark thunder. Its power was stronger than ordinary unique thunders. In just a short while, Xue Wuchang was in danger. No, I can't accept this. Xue Wuchang roared and released his totem power. A terrifying blood-red blade radiance came out of the wolf teeth blade and turned into a scarlet moon radiance. Evil Moon Slash. The incomparably ferocious blade caused the entire world to be filled with a blood-red murderous aura. The saber radiance was like a blood-red evil moon falling down, sweeping towards Yiguchen. Yiguchen used his infinity transformation. Boundless sword chi soared into the sky as if it had turned into an infinity world, enveloping the scarlet saber light within it. Boom! 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 Saber radiance and sword radiance collided, bursting out endless smoke. Yi Guqian charged at Shui Wuchang with lightning bolts all over his body. Shui Wuchang used totem possession. Wolf King's claw collided with the lightning. An extremely masculine thunderbolt power broke through the totem's protection and rushed into Shui Wuchang's limbs and veins. The Blood Moon demonic wolf totem also seemed to be suppressed and dimmed. Blood explosion. Shui Wuchang's eyes turned scarlet. Clearly, he was going all out. He took out a blood bottle that contained the pure blood medicine he had extracted from the blood barbarian demonic pool. After consuming it, Shui Wuchang's aura skyrocketed once again, and the blood qi in his body was madly combusted. Roar! With a frightening roar, an illusory blood moon demonic wolf emerged from his body. The aura of this blood moon demonic wolf was stronger than the totem aura of the Holy Sons. Since Shui Wuchang was the strongest holy son of the blood barbarian tribe, his supreme totem must be the best. The illusory demonic wolf was dozens of feet long. Its eyes were like two blood moons, piercing through the void. Its fangs and claws were as sharp as knives. After using the totem, Shui Wuchang's aura skyrocketed once again, reaching a level that made Yi Guqian frown slightly. Roar! The blood moon demonic wolf slapped down with its claws. The air seemed to be compressed, and there was an ear-piercing shriek. Yi Guqian's genuine qi also burst out. The 10,000 ultimate qi in his sea of qi ran wildly, and an unparalleled golden genuine qi spread out. In contrast, Yi Guqian looked like a golden divine king. Great Void Sword Wave. Yi Guqian comprehended the essence of the edgeless sword essence, and the heavy sword edge resonated with the void. Although he could only use 30% of the power of the Great Void Sword Wave, it was still a Supreme King-level sword art. In a place like the Saint Origin Dynasty, it was almost the best. The strong shock wave seemed to boil the void. Although the sword wave was not as numerous as the void wave, the power of each sword wave was several times stronger than the previous sword wave. Rumble. The sword wave bombarded the Blood Moon demonic wolf. Although the Blood Moon demonic wolf was powerful, its body was still shaking. However, it was a totem spirit, not a living creature. Therefore, the damage caused to it was limited. In fact, only a totem spirit could restrain a totem spirit. However, Yi Guqian's 5-color totems had not awakened. Even if they had, he did not know the totem spirit manifestation technique. I, Shui Wuchang, will not be defeated. Shui Wuchang cooperated with the Blood Moon demonic wolf and attacked Yi Guqian. After taking the blood pill and using the blood explosion secret technique, Shui Wuchang's strength was far greater than before. Streaks of blood-red blade light slashed towards Yi Guqian. Even Yi Guqian had to focus on dealing with them. At the same time, Yi Guqian used the 2 variant thunders to aggravate Shui Wuchang's injuries. Roar! The Blood Moon demonic wolf attacked again. Yi Guqian's eyes narrowed. Since the totem spirit was semi-illusory, the divine soul power might be effective against it. Yi Guqian activated the meteorite demonic butterfly in his sea of consciousness. The star soul wave spread out and enveloped the Blood Moon demonic wolf. The Blood Moon demonic wolf's body became even more illusory. Yi Guqian blocked Shui Wuchang's attack with his heavy sword. Then, he used the variant thunders to attack the Blood Moon demonic wolf. It's useless. Although your variant thunders are strong, they can't completely destroy the Blood Moon demonic wolf. Shui Wuchang's face was stern. He was about to use his ultimate move again. At this moment, Yi Guqian suddenly looked at Shui Wuchang deeply. Shui Wuchang's heart skipped a beat. He had a bad feeling. Variant thunders fusion. Yi Guqian said coldly. The 2 dazzling exotic thunders entangled and merged with each other in the void. Finally, they turned into an even more powerful silver-purple thunderbolt. This, Shui Wuchang and Dragon Girl were stunned. They had never heard of the variant thunders fusion. Boom! The silver-purple thunderbolts were like giant pythons. They entangled the Blood Moon demonic wolf and formed a lightning cage, trapping the Blood Moon demonic wolf inside. The purple void thunderbolt was obviously more lethal to the Blood Moon demonic wolf after the fusion. Roar! The Blood Moon demonic wolf howled miserably. In the end, it collapsed under the bombardment of the purple void thunderbolt. Puff! Xue Wuchang spat out a mouthful of blood. The collapse of the totem spirit had caused him great injuries. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Xue Wuchang's face was ferocious. He had never been defeated like this. Blood Moon Wolf's ultimate howl. Xue Wuchang roared as if he had used all his strength. As he slashed down with his saber, there seemed to be countless Blood Moon Wolf shadows. They covered the sky and covered the earth as they charged toward Yiguchen. Yiguchen stopped fighting. The purple void thunderbolt shot out from the tip of his sword. At the same time, he used his most powerful move. Myriad God Tribulation, destruction of heaven and earth. Boom! Powerful ripples swept out in all directions. Dust flew up from the ground. Just the aftermath of the battle made the Black Rock City governor and the others tremble with fear. When the dust settled, Xue Wuchang's figure was revealed. There was a transparent bloody hole in his chest. His heart was long gone. Who are you? Xue Wuchang's mouth kept bleeding. Yiguchen wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said flatly, I am Yiguchen from the Sword Sect. Chapter 454. Yiguchen, Xue Wuchang's pupils suddenly constricted, and a look of astonishment appeared in his eyes. Didn't you already? Xue Wuchang's eyes gradually dimmed. Yiguchen did not answer. He looked calm. Xue Wuchang's life was about to be extinguished. He suddenly felt that Yiguchen's existence would bring great threat and pressure to the holy sons and holy daughters of the barbarian tribe. And he was just the first. Plop! Xue Wuchang's life was completely cut off. He fell to the ground and blood flowed out. At this point, the 10 holy sons and holy daughters of the blood barbarian tribe were all dead. This was absolutely shocking news. If it was completely spread, it would shock the entire 7 superpowers and the barbarian tribe. Because in the past wars, there had never been a case where all the holy sons and holy daughters of the barbarian tribe died. Even if the blood barbarian tribe was only a second-tier tribe, it was impossible for this to happen. But Yiguchen did it. Dragon Girl looked at Xue Wuchang lying in a pool of blood and was a little absent-minded for a moment. The shock that Yiguchen brought her was too great. Dragon Girl even had no doubt that even if she recovered her strength, she would not be Yiguchen's match. Of course, after witnessing all this, Dragon Girl absolutely did not want to be Yiguchen's enemy. Yiguchen looked around coldly and looked at the nearly 2,000 totem warriors of the blood barbarian tribe. Those totem warriors' faces were pale and full of astonishment. They didn't expect that the 5 holy sons and holy daughters would be killed by the young man in front of them in a clean and efficient manner. These totem warriors of the blood barbarian tribe, who were known for their ferocity, were like frightened chicks at this moment. As one totem warrior retreated, the rest of the totem warriors scattered like birds and beasts, trying to escape. Kill them. Get out of here. The governor of Black Rock City would not let go of this opportunity. He led the sergeants to attack. Seeing this, Yiguchen raised one hand and directly took out the 30,000 sky-splitting sword souls in his body. The cyan sword souls surged out like a tide and bombarded the totem warriors who were trying to escape. The blood barbarians were extremely ferocious and ruthless. Yiguchen did not feel any psychological pressure when dealing with them. What followed next was a one-sided massacre. Yiguchen took his time to collect Xue Wuchang's Holy Prince tokens. In addition to the previous few pieces, there was also the piece of Xue Ling Saint. Now, Yiguchen had a total of 10 Saint tokens on him. Looking at the Holy Sun tokens that Yiguchen was counting, each one representing a Holy Sun with outstanding talent. Dragon Lady felt her scalp go numb because she also had the Holy Maiden medallion. At this moment, Yiguchen cast his gaze over to him. Dragon Lady's body froze, and her long blue hair began to flutter in the air. You! Why are you looking at me like that? Dragon Lady pursed her lips, feeling a little guilty. This guy couldn't be eyeing her holy maiden token, right? Nothing much. What do you plan to do in the future? Yiguchin asked calmly. He naturally would not covet Dragon Lady's holy maiden medallion. 10 saint tokens were almost enough for Yiguchin to win the bet. If he could still lose to the young war emperor, Yiguchin would accept it. The Dragon Lady heaved a sigh of relief and looked at Yiguchin reproachfully. Do you have to scare me like that? I originally planned to return to the Water Tribe after dealing with the threat of the Blood Barbarians. But now that I have not recovered from my injuries and have been poisoned, I am afraid that Kue Shue Inji will attack me on the way back, Dragon Lady said seriously. The 7 major forces might not know about the death of the 10 holy sons of the Blood Barbarians immediately, but Kue Shue Inji of the Barbarians would definitely know about it first. There was no guarantee that she would not set up another trap. Then what's your plan? Yiguchin asked. Can you let me stay by your side for now? When this is over, I will secretly return to the Water Tribe, Dragon Lady said, blinking her crystal-clear eyes. But... Yiguchin looked at the 2 crystal-clear jade horns on Dragon Lady's head. No matter what, he was still a member of the 7 major forces. If he was with the Holy Maiden of the Barbarians, it was hard to guarantee that no one would talk about it. That's okay. I can cover it with a hood. Also, you just need to help me find a place to stay in northern Yang City. I will repay you in the future, Dragon Lady said. She had not fully recovered from her injuries. Now that she was poisoned, she naturally needed to rest quietly. Okay. Yiguchin nodded slightly. Are you unwilling? How about I disguise myself as your maid? Dragon Lady blinked. She was originally as calm as water, but now there was a hint of playfulness in her. Forget it. Yiguchin shook his head. He did not have the habit of being served by others. Dragon Lady rolled her eyes at Yiguchin coquettishly. What an unromantic person. After solving the crisis of the Blood Barbarians, the Black Rock City governor thanked Yiguchin profusely. Although the holy son of the Blood Barbarian tribe has been dealt with, Black Rock City is still not safe now that there are battles everywhere. If possible, take everyone in the city and leave, Yiguchin said. He was not a righteous person. He could not protect the city forever. He had already done his best to remind the Black Rock City governor. I understand. The Black Rock City governor nodded. After that, Yiguchin and Dragon Lady left Black Rock City and walked toward northern Yang City. The 1-month deadline of the bet was almost up. Yiguchin prepared to return to the city directly. At the same time, the atmosphere in the Heaven Blood Demon Castle was terrifyingly silent. The high priest of the Blood Barbarian tribe looked at the shattered blood-colored jade tablets on the stone platform. His face was cold. They are all dead, including Xue Wuchang. They are all dead. The high priest's withered hands were trembling. The young experts of the Blood Barbarian tribe were all dead. What is going on? Could it be that a life and death chamber expert took action? The high priest was so angry that his whole body was trembling. High priest, please let me kill that person. An elder stepped out. His eyes were as red as blood, carrying a bone-deep hatred. Xue Wuchang was a descendant of his bloodline. He had great expectations and could even become the Blood Barbarian tribe's leader in the future. But now, he had died without knowing why. Xue Lizhan, go. The high priest waved his hand. At this moment, his heart was filled with anger and hatred. He no longer cared about the rules and tacit understanding. Yes. The elder named Xue Lizhan walked out of the Heaven Blood Demon Castle with a heart full of hatred. No matter who you are, as long as you kill Xue Wuchang, you will die. Behind Xue Lizhan, a pair of huge blood-red wings appeared. Those red wings were like the wings of a bat, incomparably ferocious. This Xue Lizhan was a life and death chamber expert. At this moment, Yiguchen did not know that he had been targeted by a huge killing intent. I have killed so many saint sons of the Blood Barbarian tribe. I think the Blood Barbarian tribe will not be able to tolerate it. I have to go back as soon as possible. In a wasteland, Yiguchen and Dragon Girl were riding a fierce horse, rushing toward northern Yang City. The fierce horse was a gift from the Black Rock City Lord, so Yiguchen accepted it directly. He knew that if the Blood Barbarian tribe found out, they would not let him go. Beside him, Dragon Girl was wearing a black hood, covering her jade-like horns and long blue hair. Only her delicate face was exposed. She also knew that there was a potential threat, so she did not have time to heal her injuries. She rushed toward northern Yang City. However, at this moment, a blood-red figure chased after him from the distant horizon like a soul-reaping judge. Hand over your lives. Unparalleled totem power turned into a huge blood-red wave, sweeping across the entire wasteland. Life and Death Chamber. Yiguchen and Dragon Girl's faces froze. Chapter 455. The figure was an old man with a gloomy face. He was the elder of the Blood Barbarian tribe, Xue Lizhan. Xue Wuchang was the most outstanding descendant of his tribe. Now that he had been killed, he had to pay with his blood. At this moment, he was filled with hatred and resentment. The blood-colored totem power was like a tide of blood as it poured over. It was as if half the sky had been dyed with the color of blood. The strength of a life and death chamber expert was far beyond that of a divine soul expert. Every move of his was filled with an oppressive aura. Are you the ones who killed Xue Wuchang? Xue Lieshan's blood bat wings vibrated as his body turned into a blood shadow. He quickly rushed toward Yiguchen and Dragon Lady. Not good. It's the elder of the Blood Barbarian tribe. Dragon Lady's face changed drastically. Most of the elders of the Barbarian tribe were life and death chamber experts or heaven and earth spirit bridge experts. Although Xue Lizhan was only a life and death chamber expert, it was too easy for him to deal with two divine soul juniors. You're breaking the rules. Dragon Lady shouted. Traitor! As the Barbarian tribe's saintess, you actually mixed with the people of the 7 major forces. You even joined hands to kill our Blood Barbarian tribe's heaven's pride. You deserve to die. Although Dragon Lady was also from the Barbarian tribe, Xue Lizhan didn't care at all. I'm the saintess of the water tribe. You dare to kill me? Dragon Lady bit her lips. Xue Lizhan smiled coldly and didn't answer. Don't talk to him anymore, Yiguchen said in a deep voice. Since the Blood Barbarian tribe had chosen to send out a life and death chamber expert, it meant that they were prepared to kill them. There was no way they would let them live. Of course, Yiguchen wouldn't let them kill him without a fight. Not to mention a life and death chamber expert, even if a divine palace expert was in front of him, he would still dare to fight back. Yiguchen flipped his hand, and a ray of light shot out. It immediately expanded in the air and turned into a crystal cover. It was the crystal cloud cover that Yiguchen had obtained from Dongfang Hong. The crystal cloud cover's binding power was extremely strong. It could temporarily trap life and death chamber experts. Even fierce Xue Mountain was struck by Yiguchen's sudden attack. The crystal cloud cover directly enveloped fierce Blood Mountain. Xue Lieshan's face became even more gloomy. He blasted out a palm, and the totem power surged violently like a collapsing dike. Rumble. The entire crystal cloud shield shone with a blinding brilliance. The shield rippled endlessly like water. Clearly, this crystal cloud cover would not be able to trap Xue Lizhan for long. Let's go. Yiguchen did not hesitate. He rode the horse and galloped away with the Dragon Girl. After running a little further, Yiguchen said to Dragon Lady, let's split up. That way, our chances of survival will be higher. But you. Dragoness bit her lip. She knew that Lai Xue Mountain probably already knew that the main force that killed the saint was Yiguchen. Furthermore, no matter what, she was still a water race dragon lady. Her status as a barbarian was there for all to see. If they split up and could only chase after one person, then Lai Shui Mountain's target would most likely be Yiguchen and not Dragon Lady. Therefore, Yiguchen's action was actually to give Dragon Lady the hope of survival and put himself in a desperate situation. Don't hesitate anymore. Do as I say. Seeing Dragon Lady hesitate, Yiguchen said with a cold tone. Many thanks. Dragon Lady's tone was sincere. Her crystal eyes looked deeply at Yiguchen. If it was before, Dragon Lady was only grateful to Yiguchen for saving her life. But now, Dragon Lady had truly recognized Yiguchen as a friend. Of course, Yiguchen did not think so much. His action was not to save Dragon Lady. He simply thought that the chances of survival would be higher this way. Soon after, Dragon Lady and Yiguchen split up and headed towards northern Yang City in different directions. However, not long after, Lai Shui Mountain shattered the crystal cloud cover. The crystal cloud cover could easily restrain Divine Soul Realm experts. But against Life and Death Chamber experts, it was a bit strenuous. Little bastard, you dared to trick me. You will die today. Lai Shui Mountain's expression was ferocious. Just as Dragon Lady had expected, when Lai Shui Mountain chased after them to the place where they separated, he did not hesitate for long and chased after Yiguchen's direction. On the wasteland, Yiguchen galloped on his horse, leaving the dust in his wake. However, there was not a trace of relief on his face. Yiguchen was now facing death. At this moment, an ear-piercing sonic boom came from afar. The bat wings on Lai Shui Mountain's back vibrated. His body was like a blood-red afterimage as he charged straight at Yiguchen. He blasted out a palm. The vigorous totem power formed a blood-red palm print and blasted towards Yiguchen. Yiguchen's perception was sharp. He stepped on the horse's back and soared into the sky. The blood-red palm print hit the wild horse. With a bang, it exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Yiguchen's figure landed on the ground. His gaze was fixed on Lai Shui Mountain. The blood-red bat wings on Lai Shui Mountain's back flapped slightly. His figure stopped in mid-air with a ferocious expression. Run. Why aren't you running? Lai Shui Mountain sneered. If you want to take my life, don't think it'll be easy. Yiguchen's expression was dignified, but there was no fear. You are Yiguchen from Sword Sect. Lai Shui Mountain glanced at Yiguchen. The news of northern Yang City had already spread. As an elder of the Blood Barbarian tribe, he naturally knew about it. In addition, Yiguchen called himself Yiguchen and had the strength to kill Shui Wuchang. Yiguchen's identity was self-evident. If you attack me, I guarantee that your Blood Barbarian tribe will be wiped out. Yiguchen's tone was cold. You killed all the saints of my tribe. Even Shui Wuchang died in your hands. Under such circumstances, you still have the courage to threaten me. Very good. I haven't seen such an ignorant junior in a long time. Lai Shui Mountain was so angry that he laughed. Not only was a Divine Soul Realm cultivator not afraid when facing a Life and Death Realm cultivator, he even had the courage to threaten him. This wasn't something that anyone could do. Although Yiguchen was stalling, he was actually measuring Lai Shui Mountain's strength. The Life and Death Realm was also divided into levels. Just like Gu Xiaoyang and Jun Xiaoyao. Once they broke through, they would be great profound martial realm cultivators. There wouldn't be any obstacles when they entered the Spirit Bridge realm. However, most people didn't have such talent. Dongfang Hong was a small profound martial realm cultivator. Lai Shui Mountain's aura was at most a small profound martial realm cultivator. Compared to Gu Xiaoyang and Jun Xiaoyao, who were in the great profound martial realm, he was far inferior. He was even slightly inferior to Dongfang Hong. No matter how strong Dongfang Hong was, he was still a disciple of the Dongfang family. Lai Shui Mountain was just an elder of a small second-tier barbarian tribe. Therefore, Yiguchen's eyes flashed, and a strong fighting spirit rose in his eyes. If he used all his trump cards, he might have the qualifications to fight a small profound martial realm cultivator. For a long time, Yiguchin was only known as a hero among his peers. Except for a few top geniuses, he was almost invincible. But now, facing a life and death realm cultivator, Yiguchin wasn't afraid. Instead, his fighting spirit rose. Yiguchin wanted to fight a life and death realm cultivator. Chapter 456. Feeling the gradually rising fighting intent in Yiguchin's eyes, a trace of astonishment appeared on Shuelishan's face. He thought that even if Yiguchin wouldn't beg for mercy, he would at least be afraid. But now, Yiguchin's face didn't have any of these emotions. There was only a raging battle intent that was like a raging prairie fire. "You actually want to fight against me?" Shuelishan said coldly. A divine soul realm actually dared to challenge a life and death challenge realm. In Shuelishan's eyes, this was complete nonsense. Life and death challenge, what's there to be afraid of? Ignoring Shuelishan's contempt, Yiguchin casually took out a long sword. However, this sword wasn't the Xianming heavy sword, but a supreme-grade mystical inscription divine weapon, blood prison sword. The blood prison sword's body looked as if it was bathed in blood. There were shark-like teeth on one side of the blade, and it looked extremely ferocious. At the same time, Yiguchin also took out the Sky Demon General armor. His facial armor, shoulder armor, breastplate, arm armor, greaves, and combat boots appeared and automatically covered Yiguchin's entire body. Sharp and ferocious thorns covered the entire blood-red armor, making Yiguchin, who was wearing the Sky Demon General armor, look as if he was possessed by an Asura. Wearing the Sky Demon General armor and holding the blood prison sword. At this moment, Yiguchin's blood chi was extremely shocking, and a blood-red cloud soared into the sky. This is a supreme-grade mystical inscription divine weapon. Shuelishan obviously felt the power of the weapon Yiguchin took out. It was far from what an ordinary mystical inscription divine weapon could compare to. "Is this what you're relying on?" Shuelishan sneered, and at the same time, there was some greed in his eyes. He could feel that the blood prison sword and Sky Demon General armor were also very compatible with the attributes of his blood barbarian tribe. If he could take them from Yiguchin, his strength would rise to a new level. Seeing the greed in Shuelishan's eyes, Yiguchin's face was extremely cold under the helmet. As soon as the soul-devouring secret skill was unleashed, all the spiritual chi in the surroundings gathered toward Yiguchin. Yiguchin's cultivation also directly skyrocketed to the peak of the Divine Soul 9 transformations. However, he was only a hair's breadth away from the threshold of life and death. However, this line was like a heavenly moat that was difficult to cross. "Die, you little bastard." Shuelishan didn't want to delay for too long. If possible, he still wanted to chase after Long Nu. In his opinion, even if Yiguchin had performed a secret technique and raised his strength to the pinnacle of the 9 transformations, as well as the augmentation from the 2 supreme-grade mystical pattern divine weapons, the Blood Hell Sword and the Heavenly Demon General armor, Yiguchin was definitely not a match for him. Mountain-splitting blood claw. Shuelishan's 5 fingers curled up as sharp finger lights flickered from his fingertips. He grabbed downwards with one hand, and the blood-colored claw lights tore through the air and shot towards Yiguchin. Yiguchin's aura was at its peak. His golden true energy had been transformed by the Heavenly Devil General armor into a blood-red color. God-slaying sword technique, 3 paths. Yiguchin wielded the Blood Hell Sword and charged forward. The Blood Hell Sword and the God-slaying sword technique both came from the Baiming family. Therefore, the Blood Hell Sword had the same augmentation effect on the God-slaying sword technique. However, 3 majestic blood-colored sword rivers spread out. That bloody aura was enough to shatter the hearts of ordinary divine soul realm experts. However, Yiguchin's opponent wasn't an ordinary divine soul realm expert. Boom! The mountain-splitting blood claw swept out and directly cut through the 3 blood rivers, grabbing towards Yiguchin's head. If this attack wasn't blocked, Yiguchin's head would explode like a watermelon. Yiguchen's eyes flashed. The more dangerous the situation was, the calmer his mind was. The blood hell sword blocked in front of him, and Shuel Yishan's blood claw directly bombarded the sword body. This attack was so powerful that ordinary spiritual pattern divine weapons would explode. Even if it was a mystical pattern divine weapon, it would be cracked. However, the blood hell sword was a supreme grade mystical pattern divine weapon, and it blocked Shuel Yishan's attack. However, the terrifying totem power followed the sword body and bombarded Yiguchen's body. Yiguchen's perfect body and the half-transformed flawless diamond body were pushed to the extreme. However, even so, Yiguchen still felt as if an ancient demonic mountain was pressing down on him, causing his chest to feel stuffy. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his figure was pushed back dozens of feet. This was the gap between realms. This kid has some strength. Shuel Yishan's eyes revealed a hint of surprise. If it was an ordinary divine soul realm expert, he wouldn't be able to block this claw. However, not only did Yiguchen block it, but he also didn't suffer any serious injuries. Not far away, Yiguchen's mouth was bleeding, and his eyes were cold. As expected of the hidden latch of life and death. Just one attack was enough to injure me. If it wasn't for the Sky Demon General armor, my injuries would be even worse. Yiguchen thought. The reason why he could barely block Shuel Yishan's attack was because of his strong physique and the flawless diamond body. The main reason was the Sky Demon General armor, which greatly increased Yiguchen's defense. Little bastard, your luck is indeed not small. Whether it's the sword or the armor, they are both supreme grade items that are 1 in a million. Shuel Yishan could also tell that the reason why Yiguchen could barely contend with him was because of the Heavenly Demon General armor's protection. However, if that's all you have to rely on, then you can die. Shuel Yishan's face was gloomy, and his eyes were scarlet. He looked at Yiguchen like a hawk. The blood-red bat wings on his back shook, and he once again charged at Yiguchen with extreme speed. Yiguchen used wave-like subtle steps. His body was like a fog, mysterious and unpredictable. God-slaying sword art, Yama. Yiguchen knew that when fighting with the hidden latch of life and death, one wrong step would be fatal. Therefore, he did not hesitate and directly used his strongest move. Boom! A blood-red Yama's shadow appeared behind Yiguchen. For some reason, the Yama's shadow condensed this time was even more realistic. Yiguchen, who had the Yama's shadow behind him, was wearing the Sky Demon General armor, like an Asura from hell. Could it be because of the Blood Prison Sword and the Sky Demon General armor? Yiguchen guessed. However, he did not have time to think about this. He directly slashed out with his sword. The Yama's shadow behind him also slashed out with his sword. With the support of the Blood Prison Sword and the Sky Demon General armor, the Yama's sword slashed out 100 zhang, as if it wanted to cut through the sky. The moment the sword slashed out, the sky changed color, and was filled with a bloody aura. Shuel Yishan frowned slightly. It was indeed his first time seeing such a powerful divine soul realm expert like Yiguchen. Shuel Wuchang's death in Yiguchen's hands was not unjust. However, the more outstanding Yiguchen's performance was, the more intense Shuel Yishan's killing intent was. If Yiguchen was allowed to escape and grow in the future, not to mention the Blood Barbarian tribe, even the entire 5 Elements Barbarian tribe would not be able to keep him in check. Blood Bat Reincarnation. Shuel Yishan's palms moved out, and 2 blood-red rays spread out. They were connected head to tail, like a blood-red ring, tearing the air. The surrounding blood-red aura shook, as if it wanted to split the sky. Boom! The blood-red ring collided with the 100 zhang sword light, and the violent battle fluctuations poured out in all directions. It caused the earth to churn, and the clouds to shake. This battle was extremely intense. However, Puchi. Yiguchen's body flew backwards like a kite with a broken string. Blood spilled out like pearls. Cough. Yiguchen's body trembled, and the hand holding the sword trembled slightly. Little bastard, Now do you know what despair is? Xue Lizhan revealed a sinister smile. Compared to directly killing Yiguchen, this kind of struggle and despair before death was what he wanted to see. However, Yiguchen's face was cold under the mask. As long as I have the sword in my hand, there is no way out. Yiguchen's eyes were swallowed by scarlet. A blood-red aura rose from his body. Shura sword intent, burst out. Chapter 457. A tragic aura lingered around Yiguchen's body. It set off his sinister heavenly demon general armor, making him look like an Asura from hell. That fierce Asura sword intent seemed to have triggered a change in the heaven and earth. The sky was dyed with a layer of gorgeous blood red. Sword intent? Xue Lizhan raised his eyebrows slightly, but that was it. If they were in the same realm, sword intent would indeed be a major killing move. However, Yiguchen was a realm apart from him. Sword intent alone was unable to make up for this gap. Hehe, try your best to struggle under my hands. Xue Lizhan did not care about Yiguchen's state at all. He attacked again. His palm was like a blood-red blade, cutting through the air. Just the aftermath was enough to severely injure an ordinary divine soul expert. If today's battle between Yiguchen and Xue Lizhan was spread out, regardless of whether Yiguchen lived or died, it would set off a huge storm. Whether it was the 7 major forces or the barbarian race, they would all be shaken. After using the Asura sword intent, Yiguchen's state also rose sharply. His sword cut through the void, and the blood-red light illuminated the sky. The power of each sword was stronger than before. Boom! 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 A series of collision sounds burst out. Xue Lizhan had used the totem possession technique. Outside his hands, illusory bat claws appeared. Totem power gathered, as hard as iron, and collided with the blood prison sword. If Yiguchen's cultivation was at the life and death threshold, or if the blood prison sword was fully recovered, then he would definitely be able to cut off Xue Lizhan's palms. But now, with Yiguchen's strength and the broken blood prison sword, he was unable to do so. Bang! After another attack, Yiguchen's body was pushed back again. The vigorous totem power rushed towards Yiguchen. If not for the heavenly demon general armor mitigating the impact, Yiguchen's injuries would have been even greater. Blood bat blade. Both of Xue Lizhan's hands clenched in the air, and 2 curved blades that looked like bat wings whizzed out from his origin ring. These 2 blood bat blades were middle-grade mystical rune divine weapons. They couldn't be compared to Yiguchen's divine weapon, but in the hands of Xue Lizhan, they were able to unleash an even stronger power. Xue Lizhan's attacks became even more ferocious. With the support of the blood bat blade, Yiguchen's situation became even more worrying. Asura blood sea 18 layers. Yiguchen's eyes were as red as blood, pushing his Asura sword intent to the limit. An illusory blood-colored sea overturned, and an 18-layer blood prison rose from the ground with a power that seemed to be able to suppress everything. If Yiguchen really transformed his sword will into sword Dao, only then would the Asura blood sea domain be fully formed and be able to suppress all enemies. Now, Yiguchen could only borrow the power of the Asura blood sea to increase his strength. God-slaying sword technique, Yama. Boundless heaven sword art. Transforming into a boundless heaven. Void sword technique, void 10,000 ripples. One sword move after another was displayed by Yiguchen. The golden sea of aura within his body was also rapidly rotating. If it wasn't for the support of the extreme sea of aura, Yiguchen definitely wouldn't be able to squander his true chi like this. As time passed, a hint of astonishment appeared in Xue Lizhan's eyes. Yiguchen's true chi was so vigorous that it far exceeded his expectations. Not only that, Yiguchen's physical body was also extremely powerful. Among the barbarian race, there were many body-refining techniques. Many of the barbarian race's saints also had astonishing physiques. However, Yiguchen's physique was even more powerful than the barbarian race's physique. Fortunately, I was able to kill this kid today. Otherwise, when he grows up in the future, who among the barbarian race's geniuses would be able to keep him in check? I'm afraid that even the quadruple crown king is only a so-so. Shui Lai Shan rejoiced. He was able to personally strangle Yi Guqin, a cultivation genius, in the cradle. Blood bat soul extinguishing sound wave. Shui Lai Shan held the blood bat blade with both hands. At the same time, a blood-colored god's soul fluctuation also spread out, as if a bat was emitting a destructive sound wave. This was his totem, the soul attack method given to him by the blood bat of the night. The sea of consciousness of a life and death chamber expert was extremely vigorous. Thus, the soul attack method they displayed was extremely terrifying. The destructive blood-colored sound waves swept out, causing the surrounding ground to crack. The violent tremors and sharp whistling sounds seemed to have scattered the clouds in the sky. Star Soul Wave. Yi Guqin also activated the meteorite demonic butterfly in his sea of consciousness and displayed his god's soul attack method. The two kinds of waves collided and intertwined, causing violent waves to tremble in all directions. Yi Guqin could feel that the destructive blood-colored sound wave was attacking his sea of consciousness. Suddenly, a splitting pain burst out from his brain. If it were an ordinary person, they would have fainted. However, Yi Guqin's face instantly turned pale as he gritted his teeth. In his sea of consciousness, the meteorite demonic butterfly and the immortal soul pearl left behind by Ning bloomed at the same time, stabilizing Yi Guqin's sea of consciousness. Even so, the pain of his brain being split in half was still extremely clear, and ordinary people would not be able to withstand it. On the other side, Shui Lai Shan was also affected. He did not expect Yi Guqin to also know about God's soul attack methods. He also did not expect Yi Guqin's soul power to be this vigorous. However, Shui Lai Shan was a life and death chamber expert after all. His sea of consciousness was more vigorous and stable. Even if he was affected, he only felt some pain. It was not as serious as Yi Guqin's. Good kid, you have hidden your strength well. This old man is becoming more and more surprised. Shui Lai Shan looked at Yi Guqin. That vigorous true qi, that valiant body, and now, that extraordinary soul power. How many trump cards did this so-called sword sex heaven's pride have? In Shui Lai Shan's heart, there was a rare trace of uneasiness. Hurry up and kill him. Shui Lai Shan did not delay any longer. He immediately summoned his totem, the blood-sucking night bat. An incomparably huge blood-colored bat appeared from his body. It had a pair of blood-colored bat wings that were dozens of feet long with black stripes. Compared to the totem spirits summoned by Shui Wuchang and the others, this blood-sucking night bat was more solid, as if it had spiritual qi and vitality. The moment the blood-sucking night bat appeared, it immediately charged towards Yi Guqin. Its speed was even faster than Shui Lai Shan's. At the same time, Shui Lai Shan also charged out with the blood bat blade. Yi Guqin could be said to be in the most dangerous situation. Bang! 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 Yi Guqin summoned 30,000 heaven-splitting sword souls and charged towards the blood-sucking night bat. At the same time, he held the blood-prison sword and clashed with Shui Lai Shan once again. His body was sent flying once again as he coughed out blood continuously. Yi Guqin's cold eyes slightly narrowed. He still had some moves that he had yet to use. At the same time, he still had one last trump card. It was the blood cloud centipede. But Yi Guqin was not willing to use the demonic cloud blood crystal's energy until it was his last resort. Since that's the case, then. Yi Guqin's eyes were extremely red. It's over. Shui Lai Shan casually said as he was about to end Yi Guqin's life. Yi Guqin knitted his brows and immediately activated the frenzy blood array on the heavenly demon general armor. In an instant, Yi Guqin felt an extreme devouring power coming from the heavenly demon general armor. It was as if it wanted to devour all the blood in his body. At the same time, the heavenly demon general armor also burst out with an even more shocking aura. The entire armor seemed to have evolved. The ferocious spikes were even longer, and the surface of the armor was constantly covered with blood-colored talismans. Yiguchen's aura had completely exploded and his strength had doubled. It was comparable to a minor profound martial realm expert. Chapter 458. Yiguchen's current aura was too powerful, as if a blood god had descended. The vigorous chi and blood in his body were being consumed by the Sky Demon General armor at a terrifying speed. However, the power that exploded out doubled Yiguchen's strength in a short period of time. To a certain extent, it was even more powerful than the spirit-devouring secret technique. The spirit-devouring secret technique could only raise one's strength by a few realms, while the Sky Demon General armor could double one's strength. Yiguchen's strength was already at the pinnacle of the 9 transformations after using the spirit-devouring secret technique. With the support of the Sky Demon General armor, his strength was close to the life and death threshold. His current cultivation was only a hair's breadth away from breaking through compared to Xue Lizhan. Although there was still a huge gap, it wasn't impossible to make up for it. Yiguchen also activated the splitting edge array on the blood prison sword at the same time. In a split second, the blood prison sword edge swallowed a sharp sword light. Compared to before, it was even sharper and more deadly. Is the life and death threshold very strong? Then, let's try again. Yiguchen's mask automatically took off, revealing a cold face with bloodstains on the corner of his mouth. His blood-red azura eyes were filled with an unyielding obsession. So what if it was the life and death threshold? Who had the qualifications to see Yiguchen as an ant? This little bastard. Xue Lizhan's face was gloomy. He could also feel that Yiguchen's aura had increased once again. Although it hadn't broken through to the life and death threshold, it had already made him somewhat fearful. Yiguchen didn't hesitate and directly swung his sword. With Yiguchen's vigorous chi and blood, he could at most maintain the frenzy blood array for 15 minutes. Therefore, within this 15 minutes, Yiguchen had to change the situation. He once again used the god-slaying sword technique, and its power had increased once again. The blood-colored sword light broke through the air, and the power fluctuation was far from what it was before. Xue Lizhan coldly smiled. He could see that Yiguchen couldn't maintain this state for long. The two of them once again engaged in a chaotic battle. The Blood Night Bat was also being suppressed by the 30,000 heaven-splitting sword souls. The shockwaves from their battle were extremely shocking. Ripples spread out in all directions, turning the wasteland into a mess. The ground cracked and dust flew everywhere. If someone were to see a Divine Soul Realm expert fighting a Life and Death Chamber expert to such an extent, they would certainly be incomparably shocked. Unless one had an extremely powerful trump card or heaven-defying talent, it would be difficult to challenge someone of a higher level. Obviously, it was hard to find such a person in the Saint Origin dynasty. Even the top prodigies like Xian Hao and the young War Emperor were not strong enough to fight against the hidden lattice of life and death. Boom! Another violent collision occurred. Yiguchen was sent flying backwards. The bones in his body creaked as if he had been crushed by a giant dragon. If it wasn't for his perfect physical body, his body would have been torn apart by now. However, on the other side, Xue Lizhan's complexion was not too good either. As a Life and Death Chamber expert, he had actually fought with a Divine Soul Realm expert for such a long time without being able to take him down. If this news were to spread out, he would be too ashamed to face anyone. Thinking of this, Xue Lizhan's totem power surged within his body. He was about to display his true ultimate move. Blood Fiend of 10 Directions. Endless blood totem power turned into a blood tide, gushing out from Xue Lizhan's body. If one were to look closely, they would discover that the blood tide was formed by countless blood bats. Wherever it passed, everything would be drowned. This was an ultimate move. Xue Lizhan wanted to kill Yiguchen in one blow. Facing such a powerful move, not to mention Divine Soul Realm experts. Even Life and Death Chamber experts would have to be cautious. Yiguchen slowly closed his eyes as he looked at the endless wave of bats that was coming towards him. Is he resigned to his fate? Seeing Yi Guchen close his eyes, Xue Lizhan coldly smiled. He was not surprised by Yi Guchen's action. If it were anyone else, facing such a desperate situation, they would also feel despair. It's a pity to let you die so easily. Xue Lizhan faintly shook his head. He still wanted to capture Yi Guchen alive and throw him into the demonic blood pool to suffer. However, that vague sense of crisis still made Xue Lizhan decide to kill Yi Guchen immediately. At this moment, facing Xue Lieshan's ultimate move, Yi Guchen closed his eyes. He was not waiting for death, but comprehending. He was relying on the pressure of life and death to comprehend. A Shura demonic thought was brewing in his mind. Shura was a slaughter. Using slaughter to gain freedom, no one could suppress Yi Guchen's sword. At this moment, Yi Guchen's comprehension of the Shura sword intent advanced by leaps and bounds. He was not far from comprehending the Shura sword Dao. Not only that, the sixth move of the god-slaying sword art, which he had been comprehending for a long time, suddenly became clear. Rumble. The blood tide of bats had already arrived in front of Yi Guchen. The corner of Xue Lieshan's mouth even revealed a trace of a victorious smile. However, at the last moment, Yi Guchen opened his eyes. It was a pair of blood-red eyes, filled with Shura demonic thought. He held the blood prison sword in his hand and gathered all the true qi in his body. Under the influence of the sky demon general armor, it looked like blood as it poured out. The sixth move of the god-slaying sword art, Permitha. Following Yi Guchen's sword, the sharp sword qi streaked across the void. A strange scene appeared. Endless blood-red flowers bloomed along the sword qi, spreading all the way. At the end of the yellow spring, there was the Permitha. On the Permitha flowers bloomed, red spider lilies. The sixth move was the Permitha. It was hard to describe the poignant beauty of this sword. The blooming of Permitha flowers did not represent prosperity, but death. If the fifth move, Yama, was a domineering judgment of life and death, then the sixth move was the desolation of the soul returning to the Permitha. What kind of sword art is this? Even Xue Lizhan, a life and death chamber expert, was shocked. The reason for that was because even he felt a fatal crisis. It should be known that he and Yi Guchen were a whole realm apart. Following that sword, the red spider lilies bloomed and collided with the blood tide of bats. Endless ripples swept out in all directions like a hurricane. Boom! Even with the protection of the sky demon general armor, Yi Guchen was still heavily injured and spat out a big mouthful of blood. However, what was shocking was that Xue Lizhan was also injured. Those Permitha flowers looked like flowers, but they were actually formed by sword qi. They wrapped around Xue Lizhan and had astonishing power. You little bastard! Xue Lizhan spat out blood. His whole body was in a sorry state. Many wounds had appeared, so deep that his bones could be seen. He, a life and death chamber expert, was actually in such a sorry state because of a divine soul realm expert. Seeing this, Yi Guchen sighed. If the opponent was a divine soul realm expert, Yi Guchen was confident that this sword could kill him. Because Permitha was more powerful than Yama. However, the opponent was a life and death chamber expert. Yi Guchen still did not stop. The blood frenzy array did not leave him much time. Thousand God tribulation, destruction of heaven and earth. Yi Guchen once again used a sword to kill, and sharp sword wings spread out from his back. The sword swept out, and the void seemed to shatter. Damn it! Xue Lizhan hurriedly blocked. He could not imagine how Yi Guchen could have so many powerful sword moves that made him, an expert, tremble in fear. Bang! Yi Guchen was once again pushed back by the shockwave. Blood gushed out from his mouth, and the Azura devil thoughts in his heart became deeper. Xue Lieshan's left arm was trembling. Because the power of the sword was concentrated on one point, his entire arm was almost crippled. I want you to die. Xue Lizhan was furious, and his eyes were scarlet. In the sky, the blood-sucking night bat seemed to have felt Shuel Yishan's killing intent. It exploded with even more powerful shockwaves, and directly shook off the heaven-splitting sword soul, which was then absorbed into Shuel Yishan's body. Blood Spirit Soul Splitting Strike. Shuel Yishan completely absorbed the power of the blood-sucking night bat. His entire body seemed to have turned into a bloody light that could destroy anything. It tore the heavens and split the earth as it charged towards Yiguchen. Yiguchen raised his eyebrows and raised his palm. Endless blood-colored true chi gathered, and a blood-red sword lotus rotated. It was the sword sect's absolute art, reincarnation sword lotus. Because the true chi was blood-colored, the sword lotus also appeared to be blood-red in color. Yiguchen threw out the sword lotus. It expanded in the wind, and turned into a rotating sword chi that blasted towards Shuel Yishan. Boom! In the violent tremor, the blood shadow formed by Shuel Yishan broke through the sword lotus. Although the impact was weakened, it still charged towards Yiguchen. Yiguchen let out a deep breath. The heavenly demon plate armor's frenzy blood array was about to reach its limit. He could only give it his all. 10,000 gods tribulation, common life fall. Yiguchen's voice was hoarse. With a wave of his sword, heaven and earth turned upside down. Chapter 459. The second style of 10,000 gods tribulation, life fall, was Yiguchen's true trump card. He had only used it once in the past when he faced Gu Xiaoyang in the Heaven Wasteland Plain. This time, Yiguchen was obviously more familiar with the life fall than the last time, and it was even more powerful. It was hard to describe the power of this sword. Following Yiguchen's sword, an unparalleled tragic and stirring concept spread out along with the surging Azura blood sea. It was as if billions of creatures were being executed and the earth was flowing with blood. Life fall was the meaning of the fall of the common people. This sword was unparalleled in power. Ah! Amidst the endless blood-colored sword light, Shuel Yishan's miserable howl could be heard. Yiguchen also suffered from the impact and spat out a big mouthful of blood. He was directly sent flying. His internal organs seemed to have been displaced, and his whole body was covered with injuries. The surrounding earth was in a mess. Ravines crisscrossed as if it had been shattered. Yiguchen collapsed on the ground. His whole body was covered with injuries, and he couldn't move for a short period of time. He looked at the smoke and dust, where Shuel Yishan was. If Shuel Yishan wasn't dead, then Yiguchen could only use his final trump card, Blood Cloud Puppet. As the smoke and dust dispersed, Yiguchen finally saw Shuel Yishan's figure. At this moment, Shuel Yishan's whole body was covered with injuries. There was even a huge bloody hole in his chest. His face was frozen with malevolence. Step by step, he slowly walked towards Yiguchen. Yiguchen's eyes focused, and his hands slowly clenched. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, finally, when he was almost in front of Yiguchen, Shuel Yishan wanted to say something, but dark red blood gushed out from his mouth. Then, Shuel Yishan's eyes bulged. His face was filled with unwillingness and disbelief. He fell to the ground and his life force disappeared. A life and death chamber expert had fallen. Seeing Shuel Yishan's aura dissipating, Yiguchen's body relaxed. Immediately, an indescribable feeling of exhaustion and lack spread throughout his whole body. Yiguchen felt that his body was extremely weak at this moment, and a bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Actually, he didn't have to risk his life like this. As long as he brought out the blood cloud centipede and pushed its power to the maximum, killing Shuel Yishan would not be a difficult matter. There was no need to put them together like this. Then why was that? Yiguchen thought that perhaps he wanted to verify his cultivation. Perhaps it was because of Shuel Yishan's gaze, which was like looking at an ant. Yiguchen just had to prove it with his own strength. No one could be high and mighty in front of him. Even life and death chamber experts would not be able to do so. I need to be stronger. If killing a minor profound martial realm cultivator is so exhausting, then how am I going to deal with Gu Xiaoyang? Yi Guqin clenched his fists. He was not complacent because he had killed Xue Lizhan. Instead, he was reflecting on himself. Xue Lizhan and Gu Xiaoyang could not be compared at all. When Gu Xiaoyang was in the Tianhuang Plains, he was already an expert at the Grand Xian Gate. In addition, his status in the Starry Sword Pavilion was extremely noble, so he could obtain countless cultivation resources. His current cultivation would only be higher than before. Yi Guqin did not forget about his enmity with Gu Xiaoyang. He did not forget about Su Jianchu's sword and the fact that his innate sword embryo was stolen. Yi Guqin felt that his strength was still not enough. After dealing with Su Jianchu's saint medicine, Yi Guqin would leave and look for an opportunity to become stronger. He was currently lying on the ground, and his body was lacking blood qi. Only his true qi was silently flowing. And that was because of his qi si. Otherwise, Yi Guqin would not have been able to release all of his moves. In this battle, Yi Guqin had used all of his strength without holding back. He swallowed another quasi-sage pellet, which was used to heal his injuries. The gentle medicine spread through his body, nourishing his injured body. The heavenly demon plate armor's frenzy blood array was indeed extremely tyrannical. Yi Guqin's face was still pale, without a trace of blood. That was because his blood qi was lacking. However, Yi Guqin had a perfect body, so his qi and blood would gradually recover. After half a day, Yi Guqin could barely move. He had searched Xue Liashan's origin ring and obtained the Elder Token. Like the Saint Token, the Elder Token represented Xue Liashan's status. The Elder Token's merit and value were far greater than the Saint Tokens. The two were not on the same level. I can't guarantee that the Blood Barbarians won't send more people. I have to leave quickly. Yi Guqin endured his injuries and headed toward northern Liang City. In the Blood Barbarians' encampment, within the Heaven Blood Demon Castle. The high priest of the Blood Barbarian tribe looked at Xue Liashan's broken jade token in silence. The death of a Life and Death Realm Elder was not a small matter for the Blood Barbarians. Is that person really only at the Divine Soul Realm? The high priest was filled with doubt and exhaustion. High priest, please let me do it. An elder stepped forward with an extremely cold expression. He was Xue Liashan's younger brother, Xue Wuhuan. The kill order is about to expire. You're good at disguising yourself, so you can sneak into northern Liang City and investigate. You must know who killed them. The high priest said gloomily. Yes. Xue Wuhuan nodded. The kill order of the Blood Barbarian tribe could only show Yi Guqin's location, but not his identity. Xue Lizhan was only able to confirm Yi Guqin's identity after seeing Yi Guqin. Time flashed by, and more than a month had passed since the exchange. In this month, there were only two things that were talked about the most in northern Liang City. One was the marriage between the Shintu and Gongsun families. The other was the bet between the Sword Sect and the young War Emperor. 2 days ago, the young War Emperor had finally returned to northern Liang City. Some people saw a confident smile on the young War Emperor's face. Clearly, he was very confident about the bet. On this day, House Yunyan was bustling with noise and excitement. This was because Zhou Tong wanted to welcome the young War Emperor to House Yunyan. It was as if the young War Emperor was destined to win the bet. In a secluded courtyard, Zhou Tong was quietly listening to the information given by the young man in front of him. This young man was naturally Bai Zichen. He was the one who had been caught spying on Yi Guqin that day. Bai Zichen had a wound on his thigh that had been bandaged. He told Zhou Tong everything that he had seen. I see. Not only does he have the heavenly extraordinary flame, but he also has the heavenly extraordinary lightning. It is indeed effective against the Blood Barbarian tribe. But even so, how many Blood Barbarian tribe saints can he kill with the extraordinary flame and extraordinary lightning? Zhou Tong shook his head slightly. He thought that although the extraordinary flame and extraordinary lightning were effective against the Blood Barbarian tribe, it was only a so-so. Moreover, Zhou Tong knew the young war emperor's strength the best. He was sure that the young war emperor would kill more saints than Yi Guqin. As far as I know, the Fire Clan and the Thunder Clan have a special secret technique that can deprive others of their refined exotic fire and exotic thunder. If I reveal this information to the holy sons of the two clans. Zhou Tong narrowed his eyes slightly. You want to communicate with the barbarian tribe? Bai Zichen was shocked. The 7 major forces and the barbarian tribe were mortal enemies. There are no eternal enemies, only eternal interests. Our goal is to deal with Yi Guqin, and the fire and lightning tribes can obtain his extraordinary flame and extraordinary lightning. Why not? Zhou Tong smiled faintly. Bai Zichen's face turned serious. Then what are you going to do? No hurry. I'm waiting for an opportunity. Zhou Tong shook his head. He naturally couldn't tell Bai Zichen everything. After all, Bai Zichen was still a member of the Sword Sect's Tower Forest. Well, find me if you need anything. Bai Zichen nodded slightly and didn't mind. As long as he could kill Yi Guqin, Bai Zichen didn't care about anything else. Zhou Tong smiled deeply as he watched Bai Zichen's figure disappear into the distance. If Yi Guqin could only rely on the extraordinary flame and extraordinary lightning to kill a few blood barbarian tribe saints, then Zhou Tong was sure that Yi Guqin would lose this bet very badly. Let's go and welcome Yang Haotsung first. Zhou Tong got up and went to House Yunyan. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.